I don't have it in me today. Hello again, friends! And you are our friends, and welcome back to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru, a fun, slappy, cranky, sleepy, but we're gonna have a good time edition, punching our hands, all sorts of action. I'm your host, the great Brian Last. We've already gone over the rails. Off the rails. Here he is. He doesn't help. The leader of the cult of Cornette, the star of the show, Mr. Jim Cornette.
You don't have it in you. You don't have. It sounds like a cat currently has it in him, and it's being fucking shuffled in and out at a high rate of speed. I am ready, Brian Last. I'm ready to eat lightning and clap thunder, walk through the graveyard and make the dead men wander. Because, you know, you're going to have to keep up with me today. You're going to have to eat a whole lot more Uncle Ben's converted rice and Van Camp's pork and beans.
Am I now? Is this...
Yes, you are.
Is this a new sponsorship situation you haven't told me about?
That's what Troy Graham would tell you. He'd say, you're going to be able to keep up with me. You're going to have to eat a whole lot more Uncle Ben converted rice and Van Camp pork and beans, baby.
Well,
so how have you been eating beans?
We're over and off the rails, as you could tell here.
Yeah, over it.
There's rails everywhere. It's like AEW. No. We're going to have a good time here today, and we have a lot of AEW stuff to talk about. We're going to play Guest the Program. I think we're going to get a bunch of questions in. But I guess, first of all...
Do we have an interview today?
Oh, yeah, we have a big star interview. We're going to get to the bottom of all the crap going on in AEW.
Oh, come on now.
We talk with... I'll let you break the news.
Well, I'm not going to false advertise for clickbait like you are. We're going to speak to the lovely Camille today, who has a starring role in the new movie Queen of the Ring that's going to be premiering. By the way, the world premiere of this movie that was shot in Louisville, Kentucky, is in Louisville, Kentucky. We have confirmed this since we've done the interview today. On Tuesday, February 25th at the AMC Stony Brook Cinemas, beautiful complex over here. More details in the weeks to come. But Camille, former NWA women's champion, Camille, former person who's been on some television programs that she may or may not be legally allowed to discuss, but that we may try to get to the bottom of some things anyway. There's going to be a few pointed questions asked to her, but now the folks will have to stay tuned till that interview comes up to get the entire scoop of the matter.
That's right. There's going to be a lot of pointing. We're going to get to the bottom of a lot of things today with Camille. I can't wait. And speaking of can't wait, we can't wait to talk about Cornette's collectibles here at the top of the show.
Well, that's a good one. You know, and it's almost a spring sale because, you know, we are melting here. Brian Last, I'll have you know, in Louisville over the past few days, the temperatures have been up in the 50s, and we had an inch and a half of rain last night, and the sun's shining now, and it's almost 60 degrees or whatever. All of the icebergs have almost melted. It's very weird to walk outside in just a T-shirt and the sun shining and you see a big mound of fucking ice sitting there. It's disorienting. But I'm going to rename the Valentine's sale at Cornette's Collectibles at JimCornette.com the early spring, thank fucking God, spend your money while you can get out of the house and go to the post office and enjoy these things. That's the sale that it's going to be. You think, is that going to fit on the fucking marquee?
That's very interesting. I mean, it's a bit of a conflict for me. I'm leading a campaign, bring Valentine's Day back. So I don't know if it's going to...
Oh, you just piffle-toffled Valentine's Day. You said piffle-toffle upon it when I said we shouldn't record on Valentine's Day. Because you're a married person with...
Because it's for lovers. Valentine's Day is for lovers.
That's so us married people don't count.
You do. You should be... Since out there being lovers. That's what Valentine's Day is all about.
Well, that's what I was telling you. I'm taking off
kissing
the day
and hugging and yeah, come on.
To spend with my beloved, and I thought you would want to take. You're like, it's a work day, it's a weekday.
Well, because again,
gotta be at my desk.
There's time for that, but I don't think it's reasonable to expect someone to just not do anything all day and celebrate. I mean, there could certainly be Valentine moments throughout the day, but I think This should be like a
But
big...
then you got to get back to the fucking conference call with the attorneys about fucking bringing the hammer down on people.
Well, more to say about that very, very soon. I cannot wait.
Oh, I didn't mean to take
I have
you
been
off.
held back with a leash by these people from opening my mouth. I can't wait.
There are federal statutes that we can't talk about things that have been going on. But nevertheless, I didn't mean to take you down that road. I was just saying, you need to do something nice for your beloved, for your betrothed or beloved or bothered on Valentine's Day and all the month of February at JimCornette.com. You can save money and you can get the Midnight Express and Heavenly Bodies action figure sets, even the deluxe 4-pack collector's edition, all of them $20 off, because that way if you're a person whose sweet patootie loves the Midnight or the Heavenly Bodies, then you can get it for them. And if you're a person who just loves the Heavenly Bodies and you don't have a sweet patootie, then you can do that too. So it works both ways around. Either get them for yourself or get them for someone you love. And if no one loves you, then you should get all of them. Because who else you going to leave your money to? Fucking the Mormons? Anyway, and besides that...
To that sweet patootie.
To that sweet patootie. If you don't have one, though, then you got no cutie patootie. You're just tootie out of luck. So in that case, just leave a will. Send me your wills to...
Send me your will. Well, not just leave a will, but send me your wills.
Well, send me your will, and I'll keep an eye on them for you. And say it. And everybody right now, if you're making your will, or in the near future, if you want to keep it in mind, you can bequeath things to Cornette's Collectibles, and we'll come and pick them up if it's over a certain amount.
Everyone thinks the advocate Paul Heyman's a big deal. Wait till you meet the trustee Jim Cornette.
That's right. Well, who is more trustee worthy than me? But anyway, and besides that, not only saving $20 on all the action figure sets of the tag teams, but if you order a tag team set, any of them at that seduced rate, then you will also get any of the remaining Jim Cornette action figures for half price, $24.95. And those are autographed as well. And I will once again mention there's like 20-something commentator play sets left. So if you want one, it's already started. They may not be there because we started this on February the 1st at noon Eastern, and you're not going to hear this till after that. So you may be shit out of luck to begin with. But check anyway, because if they are still there, they're not going to be there long. The commentator play sets.
Did you just go off on some guy on Twitter who was asking where the February sale was?
Yes, I did.
I just saw this.
I was perusing through the Twitter. It's January 31st, ladies and gentlemen, as we're recording this. I don't know when you're going to hear it. It goes through a lot of different legal clearances, this program. But I'm going through Twitter and somebody says, well, Jim Cornette, I am trying to get the deal on the $20 off the Zabada and a half off of the Zemati, and it's not letting me do that. Please update the site. And he actually had said, I'm trying to access the February sale to do the thing, and blah, blah, blah. And I just fucking, what do they call it? Quote posting or whatever, shit posting, whatever the fuck. I retweeted his thing. I said, it's not fucking February yet. Because as I was writing that, it was January fucking 31st. And he's trying to access the February sale and telling me to update my fucking site. The more I think about it, we're going to ban that motherfucker. Even in February, we're not going to take his money. I'm calling the feather bottom.
Oh, come on.
My goddamn
just because he's overzealous at the front of the line? Come on.
Well,
stop it.
He's a fucking pig. Well, he's a pig or a clown in the fucking Ringling Brothers. And nevertheless, and finally at JimCornette.com all the month of February, if you spend $50 or more on merchandise, you get a free 2-hour DVD of classic 70s and 80s wrestling from the Wrestling Gold series. And that way, while you're wearing the merchandise or framing the merchandise or reading the merchandise or watching the merchandise, one way or another, you can immerse yourself in all the things that we can do for you at JimCornette.com during the month of February.
They'll be useless the rest of the year, but February is the month for you.
Oh,
at
come
Cornette's
on.
Collectibles, JimCornette.com.
It's just it has a more magnitude in February, but it's magnitudinous all year long.
Magnitude TV.
Have we talked lately about the magnitude of me? I'm all over the place. The Dark Side of the Ring is coming up now. They've revealed that they will be returning for season 6 in March. We're going to have obviously some more information on that in the weeks to come. I'm going to be on that. I'm in the movies. I'm on the podcast. I'm on the YouTube. I'm getting tired of me. I need to stop listening to me. I guess you've stopped listening to me.
Well, I mean, it's a trend. Might as well be trendy and jump on.
It's catching on fucking quick, apparently. Goddamn, ghosted me at the end of my fucking sentence. All right, it's your program. What are we talking about?
Well, there's a lot of AEW stuff, so we should probably get that out of the way. There was a big Dynamite.
What, there was? I must have watched the wrong one.
There was a big Dynamite because it was a long Dynamite. It was a long 2 hours. It was a very, very long 2 hours. But I guess before we get there, we have to talk about something, and I've seen a little bit of it, and they showed some of the clips of it on Wednesday night. But there was a video all this time after they first debuted, put out on the Death Riders, being interviewed by Renee Moxley, good of all people.
By the Death Rider's wife.
And it is clearly everyone's dream in here's our wrestling performance, our character performance, but let's get your take on it.
Oh, well, I'm not even going to try to give you a take on. I couldn't sit through the thing. I have heard speeches on C-SPAN that were more gripping but I can set the stage for the people who haven't seen it. And then I have actually because we got deluged, right? With this, there were people that, oh, well, look at this, talk about this. No, here's what I think about this. And there's one email that I thought was very representative of many of the comments. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the fans' fucking reaction to this. So I don't know. I don't trust myself anymore. I thought it was me that I'm like, what the fuck is going on with these people? But now I find out it's not just me. It's thee and we. But what they showed on YouTube in its entirety was there is Renee Moxley good, and she's a very level-headed looking woman, but she says it's no secret. She's a normal looking person is what I'm saying. You don't think that, it's an odd couple relationship, but she says it's no secret that I'm married to Jon Moxley, or he's my husband or whatever. But when the red light comes on in the wrestling, he becomes a different person, not the person I know. And it sets the stage for, apparently, she was standing in their backyard in suburban Cincinnati somewhere, right? And the fact that he has a space in his home that looks like this would normally indicate that somebody would need to be on some kind of governmental, state, local, federal watch list, wouldn't they, Brian?
Well, maybe he's into saving.
Saving what?
The money he's making, the millions and millions he's making.
No, I'm not talking. He could have.
He's not investing in property.
He could have been on top of a mansion. We didn't see that, but I'm talking about the underneath part. Somebody needs to be investigating him. It depends on what he's saving down there. Maybe it needs to be one of those fucking John Wayne Gacy fucking.
Oh, come on.
Let's see what is in those jars of canned goods. Oh, it's pickled people's feet. No, she turns and she goes, and it's like the old-fashioned Dorothy, the storm's coming. Storm cellar doors underneath this house that she opens up and goes down these stairs into this dark area, and then opens the door, and it's like the Moxley dungeon, only Stu Hart's dungeon. It was a basement with a kind of a drop ceiling with holes in it and plaster walls with holes in them. This is one of those. It looked like my Aunt Lola's fucking basement that scared the shit out of me when I was a kid when they lived on 13th Street in Covington. This old 2-story fucking home from like the early 1900s that had been converted into an upstairs and downstairs apartment, but the fucking basement was like cobblestones with water dripping. It looked like a goddamn Vincent Price movie. So he's got this kind of apparatus set up in his home, allegedly. We didn't see a lot of the training facility, but we saw they had a dark room that they were standing in, and then another room behind them where, for some reason, Marina Schaefer was doing fucking, I don't know, stretching with a Richard Simmons video, and they're trying to, like, they're shadow boxing back there like it's some kind of underground training facility. And there was a poster on the wall, but it was carefully lit that it looked as spooky as possible. But what the point is, each one of these guys, she talked to Claudio and talked to whoever she was talking to, would stand there and drone on I don't know what the fuck, while somebody else was shadow boxing or stretching in the background, and Moxley was pacing back and forth like a rat trying to find a corner in a silo. And then when she talked to Pac, he was in a little fucking, it is not even a one-person sauna. It looked like a goddamn penalty box at a hockey game, or he was in a stall at a fucking truck stop. And he's in the sauna talking like that. And then Dick the Boozer himself, after the Boar Horsemen get finished, it just does the same thing he does on the promos on television, just longer. Am I in any way exaggerating when I've just described?
No,
this?
It was a dark and dank 25-minute video or whatever it was.
But I mean, unless you were in a medically induced coma and couldn't fucking move, would you sit there and listen to all 20 minutes of these fucking nitwits ramble on? Because it was just more of the same. But anyway, I said I wasn't going to review it because I didn't fucking understand it. But we got an email. Would you like to hear the email, Brian?
Sure.
You may have seen that. It may have come across your desk, but as CEO, you don't have time to get into the weeds. I get down here in the weeds with our fans, down in the poison ivy and the fucking manure where it belongs. And this is from Chris. I will not give his last name just to save him from the legal threats. But the subject of the email was Close Up with Mrs. the Boozer. Jim and Brian, I'm sure you guys have seen this or had 100 people send it to you, but my God, this whole Close Up with the Death Riders YouTube interview is a disaster. I laughed out loud when Renee finished her intro and the camera pans over so she can stroll into the death basement. Oh, the hard cut to Pac, framed like a weird little troll trapped in a death sauna. Yuta saying the quiet part out loud and admitting he feels like he's at a fantasy camp. Did you? At one point, old Wheeler said, "Yeah, I felt like I was in a fantasy camp." But more importantly, Chris continues, what the fuck is anyone talking about? Mox says the Death Riders are doing whatever it is they're doing because we're one bad decision away from setting this business back 20 years. That was a quote. What does that mean? What decision? Letting you get away with this shit for like 6 months now? It's certainly not moving the business forward. Another Jim. This is a quote from Dick the Boozer. I don't just say things because they sound good. That's all you do, man. No one else thinks it sounds good, but that's beside the point. What else would you call it when you say shit like Marina Schaefer will cut her enemies open and spill their guts out? Even in the world of colorful promo language, it doesn't mean anything. She's never fought anyone in this storyline. She's too busy death stretching in the background of this entire death clip.
That's well put. I like that.
Everything about this interview is written, framed, and lit like a student film. I could almost forgive it if it were a couple of guys trying to make the best of bad booking, but this is Moxley doing exactly what he wants. The most impressive thing about it is how much he manages to make scripted promos sound like wandering, boring, meaningless improv. Bonus points for ending on Moxley saying everyone should stop just stop asking questions and enjoy the ride. That was a quote also, enjoy the ride. That's the reaction a seventh grader has when you're confused by his fan fiction, not the reaction of a grown man with any actual ideas. This whole storyline is hopelessly lost. God, please let it end, Chris. And then, and he sent the link, as so many people did, to the YouTube, the full length of this thing here. But Brian, I don't know if you have access to this, but I gotta, not the clip, I just gotta read you some of the comments.
Some of the comments on
the comments
the
from the people watching this video.
Okay.
Well, one of them, Jon Moxley wears clothes, Claudio wears clothes, Wheeler wears clothes, and Marina wears clothes. But why Pac doesn't wear any clothes? But yeah, it's people are basically Mox is Tyler Durden, and they're the Space Monkey Cult. I don't even know what that means, but it doesn't sound good. And another guy says, "You sleep with him. This is so stupid." Or, "I'm a big Moxley fan, but this whole storyline has been really bad." I mean, their own people. You know, Pac on the toilet, "It seems rude to interrupt his private time. Stage crap and getting boring now. Please change the script."
Some of the comments I'm looking too, a lot of them are just pointing out, even if this was good, which it wasn't, this should have been done a long time ago. How come they're just now doing something to establish the motives, the reasoning?
And I don't know what they've established yet, except it took them longer to not explain it. This got words, just meaningless words. Moxley thinks he's so clever. The whole storyline makes zero sense. Please drop this hot garbage. I mean, these are the people watching their YouTube channel. This story makes no sense. Their whole purpose is to bring honor back in real competition, but yet every match finishes them cheating. Absolutely ignorant to have a storyline is the opposite of what they're saying. This promo did nothing for me.
The problem is Tony likes it, and Moxley loves it. And then you have to ask yourself what positives have come out of this. Apparently, Tony's been, according to the Observer, has been saying to people that the ratings are on an uptick. Everything's kind of moving up a little bit. We'll talk about the ratings for this week later on. The Moxley stuff has killed interest. And the Moxley stuff has killed interest with the AEW most devoted fans. So, at some point, it has to be addressed. But it feels like it's not going to be. And again, if Tony Khan doesn't understand the difference between go-home heat and heat, and there's different types of go-home heat, obviously, but nobody wants to see this. Nobody wants to see this.
Well, this just seemed like a weird, junky rant. So are these guys heels or faces? This is fucking awful. Anyway, if you want to check it out, ladies and gentlemen, he's in the death basement at his house. And I think, again, some county official ought to go by there and maybe take a metal detector and a shovel down there and see what's going on in Jon Moxley's basement. Oh, and he wanted to create 1,000 Jon Moxleys. Did you get that? Did you hear that line?
I read that quote. I don't even think I got to that point, but yeah, what a nightmare that would be. You think Kenny Omega wanted to fire 80% of the roster before? Just wait.
Trust in us and enjoy the damn ride. Well, the folks are going to have to trust in us today, Brian, instead of
but that's the
Mr.
problem.
Moxley.
That's the problem. Jon Moxley, I think, has proven that he does not have good ideas. He does not have good execution of his ideas. They're all really masturbatory as opposed to anything that's going to increase interest or cause fans to want to see more of it. Dynamite this week, which we're about to get to, another great example of that. I mean, it wasn't even just their segment with the heels beating down the baby faces, or if they are baby faces, who knows what's going on, but the Death Rider stuff, you have heels that just walk in without the crowd reacting at all. The Moxley crew walks through the crowd, jumps the rail, does something, and then just stands in the crowd. Everyone else is standing there too. No one reacts to anything. It's the opposite of heat. But anyway, let's...
And they've seen the WWE crew right now when they do the retro entrance where they've got like the 5-foot wide bicycle rack barriers entryway to come to the ring, and the people are trying to reach and pat the baby faces, and they're trying to stick the signs in the heels' faces and go boo at them and all that stuff. These fucking people just, like you said, walk through the crowd, walk down the sidewalk. People just kind of look at them.
It's like you're going to like Tony and Tina's wedding or something. Like you just sit at your table and eat your dinner, and they're going to do the play all around you. You don't have to move, and they're not going to do anything. You just sit there and you watch it. It's like going to the zoo.
How do you know what Tony's going to do with Tina?
Well, I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah.
But that was the Death Riders, and Jim, let's get to AEW Dynamite.
Huntsville, Alabama.
They have been all over the South recently. Now they are in Alabama, and they've been there a lot in the past. And it's a big AEW Dynamite with a long
run time.
Everything, yes.
Yeah. And fortunately, it's probably not going to take us as long to talk about it as usual because it was so long. But they were in Huntsville, and I don't know if you can Googlefy the crowd there. But again, you know, this show was almost an example of everything that you would expect them to do wrong and almost nothing you would expect them to do right. And they start out with go ahead.
If I could jump in real quick.
Yeah.
The Von Braun Center, Probst Arena.
And actually they had it's Probst Arena now because it used to be the Von Braun Civic Center, named after famous astrophysicist Werner von Braun, because Huntsville was big with the space program. You know, they had the plant down there. So now somebody's horned in and got naming rights on Werner's fucking building.
Was he the inspiration for Von Brauners?
Probably. He because Werner Kemplerer is the only other Werner that I know, and Colonel Klink came after Werner von Braun.
According to WrestleTix, 2,305 tickets distributed.
What is the seating capacity of the Von Braun Civic Center there? The Probst Arena or whatever, because it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, give me a moment. I'll pull that up just for the record. They were there last year, February 28th, so a little less than a year ago. Dynamite, 3,413.
It probably wasn't close to being full with that either. But while you look at overall seating capacity, you've got it again. Boom.
Okay, well, that's someone else's trademark, but we go now to Wikipedia.
Oh, I forgot about the boom fellas.
According to Wikipedia, the Probst Arena, 8,300 for theater seating.
For theater seating. That's a weird way to phrase an arena. Does that mean with nothing on the floor?
Because, I mean, it has here banquet ballroom, and then it has theater seating, 8,300 for Probst Arena, 1955 for the Smith Concert Hall, 1575 for the Mars Music Hall. That's where I want to go. And the Playhouse, 502.
All right. They used to just have an arena there. Maybe they've split it up or they've built some new shit or whatever. But the point is, there weren't many fucking people here.
Yeah, maybe next time run the Smith Concert Hall.
Maybe next time have Harley Cameron come out and give a concert. But they started off automatically with, here comes our friend Will Ostrich. And I mean, he looks like a Batman villain. Here comes the fine feathered fiend with the robe and the thing he's got going on, and he's flapping his wings.
He's not flapping his wings.
He's throwing his arms in the air and he's got the feathers, right? He's flapping his wings. I'm telling you, if he came out in the 3rd season of Lost in Space, he'd look even more ridiculous than the Carrot Man. But anyway, and he's wrestling Brian Cage because we want to see that for 15 solid minutes, real bad.
And we saw him, was it last week he lost to Omega?
I don't retain this.
Or was it 2 weeks ago? Well, whatever. He lost to Omega, then they had the brawl last week, I guess it was. And now this match.
Well, and Cage has grown his hair out again. Now he looks like Steve Blackman on steroids. At one point, he was a jacked up T-Joe Khan. Then he had the whole fucking mohawk thing. I don't know what the fuck's going on. But anyway, they're starting this match at the top of the show. But before the bell, Don, our friend Don Fallis, is over at Color at the announce desk. And he stands up and tells Ospreay, look at the screen. And they show on the screen Kenny is down on the floor in the back with the referees checking on him, and he's been beaten up. I wrote, "The clown is down," in the words of Tony Gurria.
How did they set this up exactly? So Don Callis is in cahoots with the production truck, and they just cut to it when he said, cut to the assault!
Yes, cut now to the assault that we just perpetrated so that we can show you this. And then Cage jumps Ospreay from behind while he's looking at it. And then they just ring the bell and have the match. And you don't know shit from apple butter about what's going on. Kenny's fallopian tubes may have spilled out onto the goddamn floor. But they're off of that now. And the corpse referee was officiating. So that means that they can do anything they want to do because he don't know what the fuck's going on. And anyway, nobody wants to hear about the match. We will skip that because that saves 15 minutes of your life. But finally, Ospreay reversed a fucking, I don't know, a double goose fucking fraba and barely hit a Styles Clash on Cage because he didn't trap his one arm, and thankfully he went with it anyway. 1, 2, 3, and he's a heavy motherfucker to begin with, and that was that. And then suddenly here's Lance Archer, boom, and he jumps in there and starts getting heat on Ospreay, and it's kind of blasé heat that went nowhere. And it wasn't with any sense of urgency, and the people were kind of sitting there bored.
We've said this in the last few weeks, but it keeps happening with these same guys. They don't know how to do a beatdown. They don't know how to throw the blows. They don't know how to do anything other than just mug the person, just jump on them.
Many of them don't know how to take it. And there's an art to getting the shit kicked out of you also. You can keep them active, and you can fight back a little bit at the start instead of one tackle pancake. They hit somebody one time, they're down, and they just boom. Remember the old footage of any major baby face in any territory. When they jump him, he fought back, and then the numbers finally got him. It was a struggle. And then the fucking heels look like they're meaning to do something and get away with it in a limited period of time. Not like, well, we've got all the time. We want to do this. We can take our time and walk around. Nobody's obviously going to interfere with this because it wasn't in the production meeting. It's just blah. So then the people are sitting there, and then they play the music, and here comes Kenny. And Kenny slides in with a chair, and he hits. You've got a goddamn blunt instrument in your hand. You've got a chair in your hand. There's this big fucking 6'9" guy or whatever. So what's the first thing you do? You take it and you run the edge of it into his stomach so that he will bend over and stand in a stooped over stationary position so you can get a different grip and then draw back and then hit him in the back while he's looking over like, are you going to hit me yet? The fuck?
Well, did you see Brian Cage was just standing there waiting for his turn?
Oh, yes. Well, Cage is standing there looking like, well, I wish he'd hurry up and get to me because I don't really have anything to do. And then he just threw the chair at him. So boom, he just bounce off and go on about his business, take the bump out.
He literally could have grabbed the chair out of Omega's hands. Instead, he stood there waiting for his turn to take the chair shot.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, if you don't know how to work on either side of that equation, if a motherfucker cannot, if you're going to hit a guy with a chair and you can't slide in and give the guy one good shot over the head with the fucking chair and him take it, and neither one of you are able to work enough to where that it would in any way be injurious to his fucking health, then don't come in with a fucking chair. Instead of doing this stagey indie outlaw bullshit. A gut shot with the fucking edge of a fucking chair. And then again, timing. They don't know how to get heat. They don't know how to make saves. They don't know how to feed. Whatever the fuck. But nevertheless, boom, he hits him, throws the chair at Cage, and he goes to help Will. And as they're holding off those heels, here comes fucking Kyle Felcher and take a shit. And now it's 4-on-2. Go ahead.
Now, that was the first time where you're like, okay, the segment could end right now. It's gone a while because it was with the match, and that went a while.
Yes.
Perfect time to end it right now. I maybe kind of want to see more.
It looks like that maybe Will and Kenny are going to put past them their personal picadillos and pussiness.
In this match alone, Kenny overcame getting this attack backstage and ran out there. This was the perfect time to end it right here.
Yes. But no. Because here comes Felcher and take a shit. And now it's 4-on-2, and they do the same thing they just did. They all get more lackluster heat. Only now there's just more of them. And then they pick the baby faces up and give them double pile drivers in the middle of the ring, and then they stand there. And nobody came out to try to help. Not even a goddamn production assistant waving their arms like, we don't care if you've broken their necks, but you've gone over time. There was no attempt at containing this heinous business that people are standing there. By the end of it, could care less. He heats up. He cools down. He's all over the fucking page. Is all the baby faces, they get the shit kicked out of them. They come back, they start a fight, they get the shit kicked out of them again. Nobody tries to help. It's obviously not important to anybody in the company. And there's no sense of urgency from the heels. This is something that nobody talks about, maybe because nobody except me talking about it has ever actually had any goddamn experience. The more urgency that the heels are perpetrating their heinous act with, the more the people sense that it's something they're trying to get away with instead of just something that's part of the show or something that it doesn't matter or something that's just blasé or whatever. We were legitimately trying to, when you would beat up the baby faces or you would injure somebody with some angle, a tennis racket in the throat or a chair in the fucking head or fucking barbed wire dildo up the yin yang, whatever.
ECW.
Yeah, there you go. You were trying to get away with something. You were hurrying in a working way. You weren't rushing to the point where the people would miss it. You made the point of the thing. The actual act was accentuated, but there was an urgency to your actions as you were trying to get away with something before eventually someone or some forces came that would have been able to prevent it. But God damn it, they were just that late. That's what makes an impact. And I have felt, as I said, as a performer in the past, when you're doing it, you're trying to get away with something. That's the way you're looking at it. You're like, somebody's going to come stop me. I've got this and this and this, and we're going to make bang. And that imparts more of a sense of, oh shit, instead of just this endless wandering around, turning in circles and waiting for somebody else to come out. Because that's another thing you can tell. Anytime I produce television, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, Ohio Valley Wrestling, Ring of Honor, if the guys were doing an angle where there was going to be somebody hitting the ring and making a comeback and then there was something else happening, there would be some level of knowledge of the people in the ring as when we were going to send whoever we were going to send. We didn't say just go out and get heat and then we'll send them Now, we used to, back in the territory days, we'll send them when it's right because everybody knew what they were doing. But no, when you get this or you have that done, then we're going to send so-and-so, and he needs to fucking blow a big comeback and a blah, blah, blah. And you would somewhat give the thing a structure so that it would keep moving and there would be the roller coaster ride, the peaks and valleys. They just send people out there and say, well, just get some heat on them, and then you go out. Well, what's my cue to go out? Oh, just let them get some heat. It's disjointed. I don't know what the fuck's going on. And everybody has to come out and get heat. So anyway, that was that. What did you think of that?
It went on way too long. And again, Kenny got beat down in the segment during the match in the back. Then he got beat down when he came out. And then the beatdown just continued again. Like they didn't want to end. It's just endless beatdowns on this show. And
then Archer went to business for himself, I think, and started hitting him in the gullet with the chair, like he was trying to rupture his diverticulitis again.
It's not a perfect example because not everyone's a chicken shit heel, but I think a Jimmy Hart, when he would jump in there and just start doing those little kicks that he would do to the guy on the mat, there was always a sense of urgency. Like, I have only X amount of time. I'm going to get as many kicks in as possible before I have to run or get punched in the face by Lawler or whatever it may be.
And also the thing was the kicks didn't hurt, but it was humiliating because look, now that the guy's down, there's that little fucking Weasley, don't weigh 150 pounds, and look at him kicking him. He's kicking him like a fucking Tinkerbell. And that was but there's no element of that here. It's just people going through the motions of doing shit that they've seen on fucking wrestling television. And I'm sick and fucking tired of it.
Two things. One,
yes,
I'm sure that'll be the best match on the Australia event, that tag match probably, with Takesha and Fletcher versus Omega and Ospreay.
Oh, they better have ambulances standing by. They'll probably dive off the roof of the fucking stadium. Well, I forgot they're not in a stadium anymore. They'll dive off the roof of the arena.
If that doesn't go to 9 stars, there's a problem. But secondly, is there any merit at all to the argument that Omega and Ospreay beat up all 4 of these guys last week, moonsaulting off the Knoxville mezzanine or loge section in the Coliseum, whatever it was, and the lighting pole, that they needed to get beat down before the match, that it was, the other guys, not turn, but the right thing to do, anything to that? Was it needed?
Well, but see, then you're expecting me to justify what they did last week to explain why this week was still wrong. The thing is, it's endemic and it's embedded in what they do. That what do you come back with the following week from double moonsaults out of the balcony and the fucking lighting stands with? Well, should they have run them over with a car this week? Because next week, the stadium show, they're going to have to fucking, somebody's got to be set on fire, fire the flamethrower up again. It's all been so much for so long.
I guess it goes to my overall point, and it's been a point.
The overall point is, but shouldn't they get something back since the
I'm
other
not saying
side
they
got
should.
something
I'm
last
saying
week?
that's an argument. I don't think they should. I think the problem is too many baby faces are getting beat down on the pay-per-views and Dynamite.
Well, yeah. Here's the thing, and somebody said Uncle Dave was trying to pontificate on this recently in his publication. And say he had quantified it. Well, like this % of the time, then I believe that the baby faces should look strong just to make sure that, the people still believe it. At the same time, you've got to have the other % of the. And again, it's like somebody's trying to fucking put him in a math class and have him figure this out. It's unique, it's emotions, and it's a feel. That's why bookers have a feel. That's why people who have done this, and right now the WWE, they have a feel in a lot of cases, like the bookers used to, of when you can sacrifice. Strowman doesn't mean anything to us right now, so we can get Fatu over that. But it's a feeling. There's no formula for it. There's no way you can quantify it mathematically. The guys in the territory days where they were in front of many of the same audiences in the same towns on a weekly or monthly basis, they were the best at feeling it. You need to get a baby face over with the fans that they believe in him and that more often than not, he would succeed in winning the title or achieving his goal or getting even with the fucking asshole if he got a fair shot at it. And once you establish a couple of those, one specifically in your territory, then you could take some out of his bank account to make a new heel. A new heel comes in by shitting in this guy's post toasties. And then you try to keep it interesting for as long as you can, but you still can't let the fans lose belief that in the end, their hero can get even with this fucking guy and they want to see it. And so all along the way is feeling, depending on the people involved, the situation, the crowds, what they buy. I've seen baby faces get over by being beaten in their initial appearances, but at the same time, the sympathy went with them enough that the people stayed with them. And, you know, there's no formula for it, but it's common sense. And when you've done too much of everything to everybody, then nothing registers the way it should with your fans because they've seen it. Or they've seen something similar. And they've seen so much of it. So that is the problem. They don't have the baby face that the people believe in, but they also can't get heat on the heels because not only do the people know that it's all fucking bullshit, but also that what can you do to a fucking human being to make people mad that incident was done when the people don't really truly like almost any of your baby faces and they've seen everything done already to a body. So then you're indie wrestling, which is where they're at right fucking now. Because that works in indie wrestling because it's not on TV and the local crowd only either 200 people see it once a month or 500 people see it twice a year. I'm sorry, am I on a soapbox here?
No, but I think that was very educational, and you brought up, obviously, a lot of great points that bookers should pay attention to, but sometimes they just wait until it's in the Observer before they pay attention to it.
You know, and the old time, the top guys with the booker would sit down. You can see Nick Bockwinkel and Ray Stevens in a fucking room with fucking Bruiser and Crusher and Gagne or whatever. Well, you know, we need to get something back, but we can't lose our heat. And it would be a negotiation. Well, we should do this, you should do that, and they would come up with it because they knew what the fuck they were doing, because they'd done it, and they had a feel for their audience. But everybody's different depending on their persona, how they're presented, and what the issue is. So there's no formula, but that's why it's an art. You've got to feel it and know when a baby face is getting over or a heel's getting over, but when you're beating them too much or making them like they did with MJF, that's a classic example of how to kill a hot heel. And with a baby face, they haven't really had anybody get over as baby faces more than when they debuted in AEW, except for the Hurt Syndicate. Just because they look like stars and are actually beating people. But I digress.
Well, again, it was a long opening segment, and although educational, a long review.
Yes.
And sometimes after things like this, a man would like to lay down and take a nap or go to bed or just say goodnight, I'll see you tomorrow for French toast in the morning.
Just say good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
What does Kenny do? Good night and au revoir. What does he say? Good night.
He says, wait a minute. Good
day.
Good day. Wait a minute. Hold, now you've scared it out of me, as Mama Cornette would say. He says,
and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Good night, good news, mwah, and bang. I don't know. He's either kissing us off or shooting at us.
See, the funny thing is, every single thing you can imagine Miss Piggy saying. Good night, mwah, I love you. Bang, bang. Well, he doesn't do bang, bang. It's just one bang, right?
Just one bang. Well, that's old one bang Kenny. That's what the girls all say. But I'll tell you what, hey, folks, whether you want to just lay down or get one bang.
That's why he's not in the Bang Bang Gang.
Well, the Bang Bang, it was all ganging up on the banging, and he couldn't take that. He's a private kind of guy. But folks, if you want to have a gangbang, we know what you can lay down on.
Let's not incorporate that activity.
Well, you know it's happened.
Well, of course it's happened. It's happening right now as we're recording in some places.
I mean on a Helix mattress.
Oh, I meant at the Marriott.
It just depends on. Wait a minute, it's checkout time right now. They better not be. But you know it's happened on a Helix mattress, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of things have happened on a Helix mattress, but they won't sell you one that those things have happened on specifically. They'll send you a brand new one. You can put, did you do this, Brian, when you got your Helix mattress? Did you put the black light on it?
No, of course not. It was brand new. It was sealed. It was clean.
You still, everything that comes in the house has to have the black light passed over it just to make sure that it doesn't need to go back inside the decontamination chamber.
Do you just walk around with this black light?
Yes, every 2 weeks. But I'll tell you, folks, these Helix mattresses, they're going to be spotless under black light. Well, at least until Uncle Harry comes and pays a visit. But if you limit his Van Camp's pork and beans, then maybe you'll get by with it. But I'll tell you what, no matter what size mattress you need for how many people or how big the people are that are going to be banging in the gang, these things will wear up under stress. And if you want to have a pleasant tomorrow, then it starts with having a good night. And of course, that's where Helix can come in handy. Of course, for you newer listeners who may not be fully apprised of the situation, Helix makes the greatest mattresses on the face of the planet, like sleeping inside the warm belly of a puppy. Can you imagine any more comforting experience than that?
Yeah, maybe being on the outside of the puppy, just cuddling with your puppy. Well, the inside of the belly doesn't sound like it would be that soft. It sounds like it would be filled with like guts and.
Well, but then you'd be cold on the other side if you weren't inside the puppy's belly.
I mean,
but I agree with you.
How cold is it outside? I mean,
we'll make sure the guts are removed. But nevertheless, if you'd like to take your puppy and sleep together on the Helix mattress, that in the states that's still legal, and I believe Kentucky's one of them. I think I'm safe. I think that's permissible. Or if you want to let your spouse in on this thing too, spouses like these mattresses because, well, you got plenty of room to spread out. And whether you like to sleep on your back or your side, or whether you like to sleep without sweating to death or without freezing, they'll warm you up. They'll cool you down. They got the fat people mattress. They got the children's mattress, the little itty bitty thing. Boy, the mailman can tuck that right under his arm. They got the kids mattress. If you research online, folks, what stunts kids' growth, feed them plenty of that. These kids' mattresses will be good for 10 years of their life.
Well, you don't know. No, don't look at it like that. Use it for the appropriate time and then get ready for the next Helix Sleep mattress.
I thought you meant get ready for the next kid you're going to have.
Well, the next kid will get the next mattress.
See, that's the thing. You're going to have 4 or 5 kids just to get, the full use out of this Helix Sleep children's mattress because they last so long. So get ready to get the big Helix mattress and start practicing now. All you do is go to helixsleep.com, folks, and you take the quiz about the kind of ways you like to sleep and the firmness or the hardness of how you like it. And then they will pick out the mattresses that they make that fit you like a glove. And then once it arrives and poof, it comes into shape right where you want it to, then it'll just be like you've just crawled into a goddamn glove. You won't want to get out. It's like a rose in a fisted glove. Except you will not be fisted by any gloves on any mattress, except, of course, if you've made separate arrangements. But right now, ladies and gentlemen.
Right now, we're going to go in a different direction and tell you about a great mattress that you can go to sleep on right now or tomorrow or later today.
I'll tell you what, just the New Year's sale is in its final hours through February the 2nd. I don't even know when you're going to hear this, folks, but you can get right now as I speak 20% off site-wide and 2 free dream pillows with every mattress purchase by going to helixsleep.com/JCE. helixsleep.com/JCE, 20% off site-wide, and 2 free dream pillows with a mattress purchase. So let's say if you buy 5 mattresses, then you'll get 100% off and 10 pillows. So that's amazing. helixsleep.com/JCE for the things that I just described afore with.
That's right, a great mattress. We love them and endorse them here at Last Manor. Helix Sleep. All right, we are back. It's time to wake up and get back to Dynamite.
That's the shortest night's sleep I ever had on a Helix mattress. So they're plugging February 15th in Australia on Max and something or live or what. There's no way. They're saying it's going to air, but there's still no time. Like here, this day and time is where you can see this thing. It's going to air, right?
We believe so. I think, again, I don't have it in front of me. Is it like the NBA All-Star Game? There's something else that is a priority for TNT.
You think?
That day, so they can't air it.
Fucking, one of the fucking master control engineers' wife is going to have a baby. So, but then Renee Moxley Good was in the back. Adam Page was looking everywhere for Swerve Strickland, couldn't find him. Bumped into MJF. They exchanged nasty looks, and Page walked off. Now, I thought Page had just been shamed into being a babyface. Hadn't he?
He had. Maybe that's why he was going to try to find Swerve. Like, hey.
But to apologize?
Let's let bygones be bygones. You terrorized my kid. I blew up your house.
You know, they do share blood, at least one way.
Let's call the whole thing off.
Which one drank the other?
He drank Swerve's.
Page drank Swerve's blood, so Page is a blood brother to Swerve.
Maybe that's it. I don't know. Maybe he's going to attack him again, but that would be a heel move. Whatever it was, he bumped into clearly a heel MJF.
And then MJF knocked him and then cut a promo about Jeff Jarrett, which we'll get to shortly. But in between, they also had a promo from Hobbs where, well, I wasn't cleared to come back tonight. You dumb shit. Maybe you shouldn't have dove off the goddamn bridge with the guy. Think about that. How many more ways can they make Hobbs look like a dumbass? Either they beat him. Sometimes we see him, sometimes we don't. Then they beat him up. He never wins anything. Then the other night, as I mentioned on Collision, mentioned on the previous show we did, Archer just just demoralized this fucking guy. And then his comeback was to belly Archer and himself off the stage through a couple of tables to the floor where they both laid there dead. So now instead of Archer on here saying, oh, goddamn, that Hobbs beat me with an inch of my life and he broke all my ribs. I can't breathe. It's Hobbs saying, well, I'm not cleared to wrestle tonight. Oh, Christ. Is it just me? Brian, I'm just asking you, is it just me?
Maybe this is a step up because usually he gets hurt and just disappears and we don't see him for a long time.
Now he gets to come out and admit that he's got the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah, this was almost like I'll be back very soon. Not like a Bandito. Hey, I'm going to do a drop kick. I'll see you in a year. Where's Bandito? Was that concussion that bad? From that
they're not usually good.
But I mean,
remember, this has only been a month.
Yeah, I guess so. Feels like longer. These shows have been very long.
Yes. So then we got to the match where if Jeff Jarrett wins over Claudio Castagnoli, then he gets a world title match with Dick the Boozer himself to fulfill his...
drive away viewers in record fashion.
But it would fulfill his dream that we've heard about for 6 weeks now of being the world champion in his final year. I can't help it.
Right after Cena announced the same exact thing.
Yeah. And they were in Huntsville, Alabama, so they wanted to like Jeff, right? The people here in the building. If they had any reason to be behind Jeff. These people were susceptible to it. So, but again, they had a match, and it's in the middle of all of this shit, nothing. Claudio and Jeff. And finally, the finish was, here comes old Wheelie Useless. And he slides a chair in the ring and then jumps up to the apron, but Jeff nails him. And he goes down, and the referee then bends over and starts trying to get this guy out of the ring. And it's like he's glued to the mattress, no matter what to the mat. See, I did the Helix
Sleep, ladies and gentlemen.
Helix Sleep. He's glued to the mat. And there's no way the referee he's just there forever. Meanwhile, he's ignoring that 5 feet behind him, Claudio has picked up the chair. Claudio swings the chair. Jeff ducks it. The chair falls. Jeff goes for the fucking stroke, but Dick the Boozer comes in. And while Jeff's bent over, grabs him in a double arm DDT. And then fucking, they flip the chair out and the Boozer rolls out of the fucking ring. And now the referee turns around from shoving this one guy. And the crowd was disgusted booing at that point because they went so far that it's like, you expect us to even buy this. This is so fucking. And Claudio hit a sloppy finish and then picked him up and did it again. And it looked worse the second time. Same fucking thing. 1, 2, 3. I don't know if he thought that it was close enough the first time. But maybe he thought, oh, that was the shits, I'll do it again, and it was the shitsier. In the shitsy scale. Are you familiar, Brian, with the shitsy scale?
I watched Dynamite. I think I saw the advent of the shitsy scale.
So then Jeff was laid out, and the heels left, and the fans were lightly, Double J, Double J. And then MJF's music hits. And he comes out to the ring, and as Jeff is getting up to his feet, MJF gets in with the microphone and starts to talk and says about 3 words and just levels Jeff with a fucking shot with the Dynamite diamond ring. And just cut a short little promo to Jeff's unconscious body. Because you're a legend, I respect you. I'm not gonna say I told you so. And then he walked off. So Jeff got laid out and beat, and then got up and got laid out again by a different person with 1 punch. And then MJF left. MJ left.
Why would any fan want to be behind Jeff Jarrett right now? They've given you no reason beyond like the initial promos to believe in him. And now really, I mean, you don't want to see him against Moxley, and kind of want MJF to just keep bumping into Adam Page or something.
I wouldn't want to be behind him now if he was one of those fat people on a scooter at Walmart. Because he's like, Jesus Christ, I'll never get around this fucking roadblock. What story are they? All right.
Was there any heat for Moxley coming in there? That's the other problem. Top heel in the company, world champion.
No, it's not like when, again, on one of the WWE programs, if somebody at that level slides into the ring, the place goes, oh, shit. They're like, no. And then on this journey through hysteria, we were almost at the 9 o'clock hour. So we got Ricochet versus AR Fox. But the rule was if Swerve interfered in the match, then his match with Ricochet, wherever the fuck they're going to have that, it would be off then. He'd lose that. And this thing started at 10 minutes till 9 and was still going at the 9 o'clock hour. So you got Ricochet versus a guy that comes in every once in a while and does jobs for 10 solid minutes leading up to the top of the hour. Which couldn't have been beneficial, one would think. But at 9:01, Brian, I'll have you know, and that's Eastern Standard Time now, Ricochet hit some kind of fucking move, 1, 2, 3, and then pulled out the golden scissors golden scissors. And as he's going to stab the fucking job guy that he just beat, apparently, for what reason, we don't know, here comes Swerve. Now he can interfere because the match is over. And he starts beating up Ricochet. But Ricochet, when he's almost in position to be double stomped off the top rope, grabs AR Fox and lays down and hides behind him with the scissors to his throat as a hostage fucking situation, and rolls out on the floor and then scurries off for higher ground after putting the scissors to some. That's 2 weeks in a row that he, by the way, he has put scissors to someone's throat. I would think that human resources would have something to say, wouldn't you?
Well, they're pretty busy with a lot of other things, so I don't know. But this week was worse than last week. He was laying on the mat doing it.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ. AR Fox is a good victim, I guess.
Have they explained why scissors? Like, you know, you were a rich kid, you had a tennis racket because you were a rich putz playing tennis.
Well, I guess his father was a fucking haberdasher. I don't...
Should he be the barber? Ricochet the barber?
I was good, but now...
He hasn't cut anyone's hair now that I think about it.
The Phallus family and Don, they did a fancily colored and painted screwdriver, right? So I don't know what the scissors are, unless he's going to cut us out of his world like Charlie Manson.
I think Ricochet's over more as a heel right now than Moxley is.
Well, yeah, but now that's a bar that a fucking cricket could limbo under.
That's true.
Anyway, and there was notes then, or notes, excerpts, clips. I'm looking at my notes. There was clips of that giant marathon death dungeon deal with Renee and all of that crew in the basement. And another, I'm not watching these Jericho promos. I just can't. What in the world? It's so childish. I don't even know what they're trying to do, and they're taking Big Bill down with them. But then we got to the next match, Brian. Light Switch Jay White versus Wheelie Useless. And I was at that point in this match, or in this show, I was like, is this a rib? And 15 minutes later, 15 minutes, Jay White hit his finish, 1, 2, 3. And then he grabbed him up and he hit another one. And then the fans actually at that point said, oh, why don't you give him one more? They were somewhat interested. And then here came Dick the Boozer, who appeared and distracted Jay White while Claudio came from behind. And they all started fake kicking Jay White again. Just like the previous angle where they all fake kicked and fake got heat on. And then music played and Edge and FTR slid in and the heels bailed out. And Dax did a promo. He was mad that they tried to end Ricky Morton's career. He called him his, what'd he say, his 67-year-old hero. I'm thinking that's 3 or 4 years off, but I'm going to stay out of that fucking... The courts can rule on that later on. And then Dax plugged Dennis Condrey. Dennis lives in Huntsville, so he was there, and he got a free ticket, by the way, and swore on Dennis's name that they would beat the Boar Horsemen on Collision in a Mid-South street fight. And they were in Huntsville, Alabama, so they didn't have any connection to Mid-South wrestling, so they didn't necessarily pop on that or anything else in this segment, because what the fuck? But there you go. And you know, as an addendum to what I said earlier about urgency and the heels trying to get away with something, and you have to time these things, I thought of this a minute or so ago. If anybody wants to, I know it's on YouTube. I've seen it there. Maybe they've taken it down with the status of the network. Who knows what's going on? But the angle that the Midnight Express did with Brian Pillman and Tom Zink in Altoona, Pennsylvania on the Saturday night TBS program where Bobby... 1990, they gave Pillman the leg to the Vegematic, the leg drop with Stan's bear hug, while my tennis racket was on his throat. That's an example of you do a finish, the heels come in, they get some fucking heat, they do their damage, and then people come to try to stop it, and we played King of the Hill, and then it was too much and we had to get out of there. And the people were screaming and there was urgency to it. That's when I was still on the creative committee there in WCW for about 2 more weeks after we shot that. So I actually laid that out and produced that segment myself so that everybody would know when to come in and when to attempt to make a save and a blah, blah, blah. And the whole violent nature of the finish to angle to, or finish to brawl to angle to out was under 3 minutes. But it was chaotic minutes. This is just blah. Blah. This is just...
All right, no one likes that, but let's move on. I think it's a little cringy. I don't know.
All right, then Renee Moxley Good was on the stage with Maria May, and I think this show is brutal. And she actually said and got by with on TBS television, they should change Huntsville's name to start with a C. Boy, for a program that's losing instead of gaining viewers, they don't want to be friendly to the network, do they? Or
you couldn't say foreign object.
No, yes, we got memos about, you can't say foreign object. So then they did a long earlier tonight recap that made me think for some reason that they were running fucking short or running long, or you know what I'm saying. Shit, we're almost
running on empty.
Event. Yeah, we're running on empty. And then, folks, once again, if I'm lying, I'm flying and my feet ain't left the ground. The main event of this program was the multiple girl belt title match with Mercedes Moon and Yuka Sakazaki. And Mercedes came out with all 4 of her Play Promotion belts. Together, they weigh more than she does. And here came Yuka, who is the magical girl. And she's dressed like Barbara Eden and I Dream of Jeannie for all you 60 to 75-year-old perverts out there. And this was the main event of the television program. And they even had Smiley Roberts do the ring introductions. And it's 10 minutes till 10. So everybody pretty much knows, well, no, we don't even usually watch the end of the program, but sometimes they have an angle, but no, what the fuck? And Yuka, it sounded to me like got a bigger pop than Mercedes because they they bore booed her like, And this got an overrun. They started out saying we're going to stay with this match until the conclusion when they started doing the overruns. And it was great if it was a big main event title match or if it was done even a couple of times a month or what, but they were doing it as a ratings ploy to try to grab what do we figure one time? 10 or 11,000 people onto their average. And at one point they did a 20-something minute overrun, but lately it's been 5, 6, 7 minutes. But now they got the Joe Schmo show. That important piece of television real estate is following this program. So they're getting 5 minutes and boom, and they need to get out of there because they don't want the the hose to Miss Joe Schmo. So they must be contractually obligated now to get an overrun, because if there was ever a match that didn't deserve a network scheduling change, it would be this one. Wouldn't you agree, Brian? Have I soapboxed too much?
You know, again, if Joe Schmo's a priority, why would you have this overrun? Because the overruns never really, every now and then they do, but they never really gain viewers. So you're driving out more people before.
Well, remember, they used to gain some when they started doing it. It was kind of a unique deal, and it was something that, and now it's like, no, they expect it. And they don't want to see it. I don't know what happened in this match.
Mercedes won. Mercedes moaned on.
Well, I was fast forwarding until I either saw some other talent involved in an angle, because I didn't want to get false finished like Raw the other night, or Joe Schmo, and I saw Joe Schmo. So,
have you been watching it? Is it any good? I haven't watched it yet.
I hadn't got a chance to devote any time to it yet, but the description sounds better than AEW.
I wonder if they can get him, like book him for some appearances. It would probably help them if they can announce Joe Schmo will be here next week on the show.
I think they have to wait until Joe finds out at the end of this series that he's a schmo. Because at the first part of it, they're working him, right? He doesn't know he's a schmo yet. He hadn't been schmoed. He hadn't been schmofied.
All right. Well, that was AEW Dynamite in Huntsville.
We've been schmofied.
We've been schmofied, and before we schmo on any longer, let's get to the ratings. AEW Dynamite, January 29th, 8 to 10:05 p.m. On average, watched by 604,000 viewers.
Oh, they're going back in the opposite direction of when they've been doing the past couple of weeks.
And again, they're trying to say that interest and ratings are going up. I think there may have been some other circumstances behind any raise in the numbers the last few weeks, but we'll talk a little bit about Collision also in a little while. But let's get to the quarter hours. And by the way, you brought up last week, down 8%. Last week was 655, 4-week average 634. So off 5% on that.
And have I heard rumors, hear tell on the interwebs, that when they give out these numbers, this is now including the TBS and Max viewership? Can we get any confirmation on that from anybody?
You know, because I told you, I think maybe a week or two ago, this doesn't include Max, and you said, of course. And then I was like, yeah, of course. But I think I have read that, but I don't know how we have several people who work in television, so they'll probably get to us before anyone in wrestling.
Yes, we are trying to investigate this, but somebody's saying it says, well, which pretty much the numbers never changed. They went up a little, they went down a little. But it's the same thing. I think the same people are just watching however the fuck they're watching.
Again, go now. Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but tell me more.
Let's go to the quarter hours. These were compiled by WrestleNomics. Quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m. Brian Cage versus Will Ospreay. 746,000 viewers.
Ouch. So right there, they took a hit from where they started last week of almost 100,000 or so, didn't they?
And I didn't even realize it. No commercial break for the first quarter. Or first quarter. That is.
Yeah, maybe that's why it seemed especially long, that match.
We go to quarter 2, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m. The continuation of Ospreay versus Cage. The post-match with the Don Callis family, Kenny Omega, and that is a colon. So that is the end of that.
And wait a minute, what about Kenny Omega's colon?
Adam Page.
Is he having problems again?
Adam Page and MJF's backstage angle, an ad break, the Powerhouse Hobbs promo, and the start of Jeff Jarrett, the Last Outlaw, versus Claudio Castagnoli.
The Last Swissman.
679,000 viewers.
Okay, well, on the positive side, that's not as big a drop from quarter 1 to 2 as they had last week. That's only 67,000 people. That ain't bad.
We go to quarter 3, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. The continuation of Claudio versus Jeff with picture-in-picture ads. And the post-match with MJF.
And Jeff.
And then ad break. 601,000 viewers.
Ouch. Well, there went 78,000 more, and now they're down 145,000 in 45 minutes.
We go to quarter 4, 8:45 to 9 p.m. Ricochet's backstage promo and Ricochet versus AR Fox with picture-in-picture ads. 599,000 viewers.
Okay, well, it's only 2,000 people. It's a mental thing. They've gone from the 6s to the 5s, but really they held the audience. But unfortunately, the top of the hour is coming up. What happened there?
We go to the top of the hour, the big 9 o'clock hour, 9 to 9:15 p.m., quarter 5. The continuation of Ricochet versus Fox. The post-match with Swerve Strickland. An ad break. The Learning Tree promo. And the start of Jay White versus Wheeler Yuta. 585,000 viewers.
So it didn't bode well, as I said, and they lost another 14,000, and now they are down 161,000 viewers from that. But they've almost got to pick something up to get to their average here pretty soon.
Well, we go to, what is this now? This is quarter 6, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. Jay White versus Wheeler Yuta continued. Is that you writing or is that Swami scratching something?
That was me scratching my head. Am I not allowed to scratch an itch?
I thought it was maybe Swami scratching to somehow he got to the door and he's saying, hey, I gotta pee. I didn't know what the hell it was. I guess what I'm saying is you scratching your head sounds like a dog scratching the door.
Well, that's because my paw is made for scratching. That's just what they'll do. One of these days, these paws are going to scratch the shit out of you.
The continuation of White versus Yuta with picture-in-picture and the post-match with the Death Riders and Rated FTR. 593,000 viewers.
Okay, the modest gain of 8,000. That could have been some people getting home from dinner.
Well, dinner continues in quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The Tony Storm Mariah May video. Was that just a recap?
Yeah, basically.
The Mariah May ramp promo.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't even talk about this. The Guns video.
Well, remember that's I was skipping through shit. I didn't know the Guns had a video, but Mariah called Huntsville, basically.
Yeah, and then they did a video for the Guns, so they're on the way back. And the Hurt Syndicate backstage promo, followed by an ad break. 546,000 viewers.
Oh, good Lord. That's 200,000 exactly since the start of the program. So they've already lost over 25% of their initial audience.
But wait, there's more.
What did you could do?
We go now to quarter 8. I remind you, we have a 5-minute overrun. Quarter 8, 9:45 to 10 p.m. Deonna Purrazzo and Taya Valkyrie's backstage promo. And the start of Mercedes Moné versus Yuka Sakazaki with picture-in-picture. 514,000 viewers.
Ouch.
5-minute overrun. The continuation of Yuka versus Moné. 518,000 viewers.
So that's 232,000 viewers, which they started with 746 and they lost 232. I think they lost 33%, didn't they? 230.
I will trust your math. You're a wise man.
No, they lost 30%. They didn't quite lose 33. It would be somewhere around 30% of the audience. Good night.
And again, the featured stuff on that show, you have Mercedes Moné and the women in the main event spot. But the main event spot typically doesn't do very good on these shows lately. The Moxley stuff, the Jeff Jarrett stuff. I wanted to quickly bring up to you, Jim, Collision on the 25th. That was with the Tony Storm Mariah May angle that you Actually, you watched more than that. You saw a bunch of this show.
Yes, remember until something happened the last 15 minutes, I said, oh, hell no, I'm just done. But yeah, there were a lot of things. They destroyed Powerhouse Hobbs's career. They did a lot of goofy shit on that program.
According to WrestleNomics, Collision, January 25th, 2025, 8 to 10 p.m., 250,000 viewers on average. It says here it does not include Max here, but we don't know what that max number would be in any way. But when you look at the quarter hours, again, if you're trying to present this like we're gaining popularity and everything's working, quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m., promos in the back, followed by Samoa Joe versus Nick Wayne, and the post-match with the Patriarchy, Shibata, and Hook, and a Dynamite recap, 363,000 viewers. Quarter 2, 8:15, 8:30 p.m., Okada versus Commander, picture-in-picture, and the Powerhouse Hobbs Big Bill Angle,
yeah,
followed by an ad break, 289.
Oh.
289,000 viewers. Quarter 3, Big Justice and AJ, and the Undisputed Kingdom, I will dispute that, backstage angle, Angelo Parker and Daniel Garcia and Matt Menard versus the Undisputed Kingdom with picture-in-picture, 269,000 viewers. Quarter 4, 8:45 to 9 p.m., continuation of the aforementioned match, Max Caster's backstage promo, an ad break, Top Flight's backstage promo, and the Toni Storm Mariah May live angle, 259,000 viewers.
Oh.
Now we go to the big 9 o'clock hour, 9 to 9:15 p.m., quarter 5.
But the big thing that everybody was talking about has been the lowest so far.
The Jon Moxley backstage promo, followed by the Gates of Agony versus the Hounds of Hell, with picture-in-picture ads.
With the Hound of the Baskerville special referee.
255,000 viewers. We go now to quarter 6. That's what this is. 9:15 and 9:30 p.m. The Big Justice, AJ, Harley Cameron, Deonna Purrazzo, Taya Valkyrie angle. An ad break. Thunder Rosa and Penelope Ford's angle. Serena Deeb versus Deonna Purrazzo versus Yuka Sakazaki versus Queen Aminata.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
With picture-in-picture, 193,000 viewers.
Wow.
69,000 in the key demo. 9:30 to 9:45 p.m., quarter 7, continuation of Deeb versus Purrazzo versus Sakazaki versus Queen Aminata. The Hounds of Hell, Okada backstage angle. An ad break. Powerhouse Hobbs and Big Bill's live angle. And the Don Callis family video. 187,000 viewers. Finally, and there's a 2-minute overrun. 9:45 to 10 p.m., quarter 8. Takeshita versus Shibata. With picture-in-picture. 185,000 viewers. Bottoming out at 58,000 in the key demo. 2-minute overrun, 257,000 viewers.
Boy, they were waiting for something to come next, weren't they? But that was 8 to 10 for Collision, right, on Saturday night.
That is correct. Against Saturday night's main event.
But Saturday night's main event was 8 to 10 also, right? So Collision started with 363,000 people and ended with 185,000. 185 times 2 is 370, right? They lost 50% of their audience. It's not like all of a sudden Saturday night's main event started and, oh, shit, we got to leave and go over there. It was already going. It was the same time. People were actively saying, fuck this television program.
But you see, that goes to the point with the Mariah May, Toni Storm angle. Not to say that I like all that stuff, but it's a big deal for their fans. It's not even about putting it on Collision versus Dynamite, which is an issue. It's about putting it on this Collision, knowing what you're against, head to head, on free TV. Max Caster apparently has had a whole heel turn on Collision. They once moved the ratings on Dynamite, the Acclaimed. So now, if you ever see them again on Dynamite, it's over. They've broken up. It's all happened. You missed it because you have a life on Saturday. I mean, what the fuck? But that's AEW Collision.
Is Max Caster the new Sammy Guevara? Did everybody love him until they actually kind of figured out what he's like personally, and then suddenly nobody likes him?
Well, I'm not exactly sure, but one thing that he does that makes people like him is he makes music. He is a musician. He is a rapper. He's got beats in his head. And when he actually...
He's got bats in his belfry, too, but go ahead.
Well, whenever he actually wants to hear some of the finished product, work on some of the demos, he needs something to put in his ears to hear that music. And we know someone who can give you the finest sounds delivered straight to you.
Now, let me tell you something. When Max Caster makes music, everybody else needs something to stick in their ears. That's the problem. But, folks, we got you covered, because if you're anywhere around the greatest wrestler alive, and he tries to drop some of them beats on you and do the beatbox thing and like that, like they used to do on Hee Haw. Well, all you got to do is stick your Raycon everyday wireless earbuds in your heads and play some real music, or even play podcasts, or play, I don't know, government fucking manuals about how the things operate. You can play anything. It would be more interesting than Max Caster's music. But the Raycon everyday earbuds are your perfect partner for the gym or work or phone calls. Let's say somebody calls you on the phone. Brian, you've had this happen a million times, and you accidentally answer it thinking it's somebody else, and now you got to talk to this weasel. All you got to do is just stick the Raycon everyday wireless earbuds in your head, and you can listen to some Led Zeppelin and just every 30 seconds go, and they'll never know. You do that all the time, don't you?
Not with Led Zeppelin, no.
Well, you know what I mean. Sometimes you're listening to the Strawberry Alarm Clock.
Yes, that's true.
But their latest model of these earbuds, Raycon that is better than ever with the 32-hour battery life and the multi-point connectivity that lets you daring swingers out there pair with two devices at once. There is a 2-drink minimum, but they're cheap. And speaking of battery, with Raycon's quick charge function, you can plug it in for just 10 minutes of charging and you get 90 minutes of battery. So if you plug it in for 10 minutes, you can listen to an entire double album without it going dead. And then moments later, it will be I Buried Paul.
Cranberry sauce.
And these earbuds also come with active noise cancellation, which is often difficult to find in some of the other models, but Raycon's got it. You can cancel that noise at the twinkling of an eye, actually the press of a button, and suddenly the world will become completely silent. You won't be able to hear the wind blowing, the birds twerping, or anything else around you. It will be like you're in a vacuum, ladies and gentlemen. That'll be right before the rapture when you just walk into the light. And Raycon's everyday earbuds are available in a variety of vibrant colors, including Rapture Light. So you just set them down on the ground, they instantly glow. You hear harp music, you step into them, and you are transported into a higher plane of consciousness. And all for less than half the price of other premium audio brands. How often can you get a cheap job on being sent to a higher plane of consciousness?
Oh, don't throw that to me. I can't answer that. That's a deep question.
Well, you've been higher many times, and you've been on planes. I'm not sure if you're conscious, but I thought
I have cosmic consciousness. I have cosmic consciousness, so I can actually.
You have Cosby consciousness.
Cosmic, not Cosby. Goddammit! What the hell are you trying to say?
I was going to say Cosby had more unconsciousness around him, but if you don't fall in love with your Raycons and do, I don't know, perverted things with them in your various orifices,
no.
They offer a 30-day happiness guarantee return policy, no questions asked. Well, they will ask you if you've stuck them up your ass or not. Because they won't take them back. If they've been in your anal orifice.
Again, none of this is
will not
scenario that will happen. This will not be happening, no.
It's like at a bookstore, you take a book into the bathroom, they can't put it back on the shelves. It's got fecal traces on it.
Well, so, I mean, of course they're not going to take back one, but again, the whole scenario is predicated on nonsense. It's
are they not going to take back on their 30-day happiness guarantee Raycons that have been stuck up somebody's ass?
Well, that's not what people are going to do, and of course, that's not what we would want to suggest that people do. What you want to do
how widespread
in your ears. Unless you have fecal matter in your ears, folks. And again, we don't encourage that either.
Well,
that seems like it would be a bad idea.
That's if you've got shit for brains.
Well, if you have shit for brains, you may have an issue, but otherwise, the fine people out there, the law-abiding citizens of the cult of Cornette, can put these in their ears and listen to, as you said, the finest things. And there's a happiness guarantee, and you just have to worry about earwax most of the time. But Jim, what else do we have to tell them without going off track?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If you don't like them, folks, you can shove them up your ass, but
you will love them.
Go right now. You're going to love them like a member of the family. Go to... Well, what you're going to want to do...
The drive-thru is closed.
What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to Buy Raycon. That's BUYRAYCON, buyraycon.com/JCE, and you're going to get up to 20% off site-wide. That's up to 20% off whatever they got. They'll tell you. It'll automatically figure it. Just give them the money they ask for. Everybody will be safer that way. But buyraycon.com/JCE. 20% off site-wide with the code JC headphones too. So you can shove them in your ears or stick them on your head when you go to buyraycon.com/JCE.
That's right. We love Raycon here, and will love
the little box comes up. When you do you not want fecal matter? Just press
again. You will not have to worry about this. Don't worry about checking that box. There will be no box, but we will not put you in a box. Raycon will give you a chance to hear whatever you want. Promo code JCE. But Jim,
yes.
Without going too off track, let's talk about a project you're involved with. The upcoming movie, Queen of the Ring. People are already buzzing about it, getting great reviews. Some say better than The Iron Claw. We'll see what people have to say as it gets out there, but we had a chance to speak with one of your co-stars in the movie.
Yes, and I would rank this movie, from what I can tell so far, up there right underneath The Wrestler, the 1974 version executive produced by Vern Gagne. That cannot be topped, but we're going to do the best we can. But no,
Body Slam.
Oh, come on.
Harry Smilak.
I think we got Body Slam beat. Hey, wait till you see Mae Young in this flick. I'm telling you what. Woohoo! But anyhow, yes, we shot it here in Louisville,
words
Kentucky.
Never heard before. Wait till you see Mae Young in this flick. Woohoo!
Woohoo! We shot it here in Louisville. Me and my production company. No, it was shot here in Louisville, Kentucky. I was a small cog in the wheel, as we've been talking about for the past week or two, and it is premiering now. We can officially confirm, as I said at the top of the program, February the 25th. That's AMC Stony Brook Cinema here in Louisville, Kentucky. Big, nice place over there. There's going to be premieres that we're going to be talking about as we get closer in Nashville and Chicago, New York, LA, and then the widespread release. It hits everybody's neighborhood theater March the 7th. If it doesn't hit your neighborhood theater, demand that you go stage a protest. Picket your neighborhood theater. But we're going to be talking to a few people involved in the film, and the first one today is a conversation that we recorded not long ago with the former NWA Women's Champion, Camille, who I first worked with in the NWA about 5 years ago when they started studio wrestling. I was there for a brief moment. And at the same time, we seem to feel like that we have seen Camille, Brian, somewhere else more recently, but there are some things that she is not at liberty, as they say, to talk about in this interview, but others like the movie and her background and her general vivaciousness are fully available to be discussed, and that's what we did in this interview that we're about to play for the folks.
And of course, I don't accept any of those rules. I'm going to get all the hard questions asked, and I'm going to get the answers.
You ask some pointed, hard questions.
That's right.
And you get some pointed, hard answers back.
Well, if all is okay with you, let's go to it now.
You'll see that it's both pointy and hard.
Here is Jim's conversation with Camille.
All right, well, in anticipation of the debut, the premiere, the covering of the theaters in the United States of America with the brand new movie Queen of the Ring on the life of legendary wrestling champion Mildred Burke, we are talking to one of the stars of that movie today. And of course, I have a bit part, but this young lady is one of the key figures, and she also happens to be one of the key figures in the wrestling business, none other than Camille. Camille, how are you? Thank you for being here.
I am good. Good to talk to you, Jim.
And I know people are going to say, well, how in the world did they meet on the movie? You and I worked together for the first time on the ill-fated debut studio tapings of the NWA. Ill-fated for me and Mr. Lagana, at least, back 5 years ago now. And we got to spend a couple of days there together doing that shoot. And then you have gone on to make quite a name for yourself in the wrestling business. And I've come home to make quite a name for myself at home here. But this movie is a great opportunity for you because you kind of fit the part of June Byers. Mm-hmm. In terms of June Byers was, of course, that was the whole reason why that Billy Wolf had sent her after Mildred Burke. She was one of the biggest girls, one of the most physically dominating girls in the business at that time. And it's hard to find people with that look, and you sure do have it. How did the part come about? How did you land this big fish?
So the story of how I got this role is kind of crazy. I don't know if you remember or know of Taryn Terrell. Do you remember Taryn?
I remember.
TNA.
What? Yes.
Like the dollhouse in TNA.
Yes.
Well, she was working some with NWA at the time, and I was just talking to her, and I was like, I wonder, what I can do when wrestling's over and all this stuff. And she has been doing like some stunt work, and her husband's really big in like the stunt work industry as well. So she had texted me, and this is when me and my husband were living in Tennessee. And she was like, hey, they're filming this movie in Louisville, and they need some stunt people. Do you just want to send in your pictures? So, I just take some phone pictures, send them in, and forget about it. Like, that's it. And in between the time, I remember I got tagged in, like, Twitter, and someone had tagged me and was like, Camille should have got this part, because they had already casted for Queen of the Ring, and the June Byers role was already casted. And I was like, oh man, that would have been cool. I didn't even, know about this project. So whatever. Cause again, Taryn didn't tell me what it was for or anything. So that was that. Fast forward a few months, and it's like 10 o'clock at night. Usually I'm in bed by then. And she texts me and she's like, congrats, we're auditioning for the same role. And I said, I texted her back. I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she was like, it's for that wrestling movie, Queen of the Ring, there, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wait, I thought that they already cast that. And she was like, well, WWE, because it was a couple WWE girls, pulled them at the last minute. And it was like the week before they were supposed to be shooting.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking to Ash Avildsen on one of these programs, and there's an interesting story behind that. I'm not sure whether it will be told or not, but we might land the scoop. But I know,
or at least
I
the
smell
whole thing.
I smell what you're cooking. But so there was another shot at it.
Yeah, and again, I didn't even, I'm not an actress. I don't have any representation. I very much just kind of do my own thing. And so I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I get an email the next day. They send me some slides or whatever, it's called. And they were like, just film yourself doing these lines. So I filmed it, and I hope they're on my phone still, because I bet that it was the most corniest audition ever. And I get a call the next day. They were like, hey, can you drive to Louisville? Which it was only like a 3-hour drive from where I was in Tennessee. And so I drive in and I go into Ash's office, and it was the most awkward thing. And not because of Ash. I got along with Ash great. But just because I've never acted before, I've never done this, and I just did my best. And one of the scenes that we did in his office was like a very serious scene, and it was weird. But I was driving home, and then they called, and they were like, hey, can you go over to the OVW building and just see, because we want to see what you look like with the actress that we have in there, right?
Yeah, in a ring, right?
In the ring, exactly. So we drive over there. I meet all the girls. They're really nice. They take some pictures, some video, and blah, blah, blah. And then pretty much, boom, I got the role. Like it was that fast. And it was funny because when you went into like their little headquarters or whatever, you see everybody with their headshots up there, like the professional headshots. I don't have a headshot, so they just put like a wrestling 8x10 up there, beside like Walton Goggins, Josh Lucas. It's like the weirdest thing ever, but yeah.
Well,
and then we started shooting.
Here's the thing is, I think that probably it's turned out better because if there was let's say, just for example, if there had previously been somebody cast in that role that's been on television as themselves for 10 years and is typecast more or less in people's minds when they see well, that's so-and-so. Whereas
right.
This is your debut movie performance and you've been yourself on television, but all being charitable, you're not a household name yet. You will be.
No, right.
So you got to really play this part, and it may have been better for the movie, for the art of the whole thing. Like Bob Denver couldn't escape being Gilligan. Anything he ever did on television after that, he was typecast. And
yes.
You come in and boom, and you're June. And I had the same reaction to Ash when I said, I've been doing this 40 years. I've never played somebody else. I've never done a scripted role and played a part, but when you're the one of the biggest physically dominant lady wrestlers in the field, that's kind of typecasting there in itself.
Yeah, and the look was a huge thing, because even Ash and his fiance, told me, they were like, we really liked Taryn's audition as well, and I love Taryn. I'm so grateful. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have this role. But she just physically looking beside Emily would have been too small. So like the look was really a big thing. And then since I've never acted before, Ash, and he might tell you about this when you guys talk, he did a really good job of like, I had the script and I would read the lines to him. And if he was like, that doesn't sound right, you saying it, he was like, how would you say that? And so I know not all directors do this, but he really let me say things how they would come out of my mouth naturally, especially not having any acting training. I didn't have time to go get some acting training. So yeah. He was like, say it however you would say it. And it worked out for the best. I think, I don't know. He sent some article that the Hollywood Reporter did, and apparently they put me over in it. And I guess that's a big thing. So I was like, I should just retire from acting now, though, because that's, just go out on top.
Yeah, do a Costanza. Thank you very much. You've been a wonderful audience. Leave on the hot line.
One hit wonder there.
You did nail the part, as we said, of June Byers, but also you mentioned doing stunt work is how this, you kind of got led to this. I don't want to break the Hollywood illusion, but you did all your own stunts, as we say in the business.
I did.
Whereas there were a couple of other ladies that, every once in a while somebody would step in, but you were kind of, even with the Hollywood stunt people, you were kind of having to play several different parts. You were an actor as June Byers. You were the June Byers stunt lady, and you would coordinate with the other stunt girls who weren't pro wrestlers what you were going to do, so everybody was on the same page. So you were kind of integral. That a couple of days we spent over at Actors Theater for 12 hours in that ring.
Oh, but wait, were you there? I don't know. Were you there when I had flipped off Ash in the bed?
I may have been asleep over next to Dean Hill and
Right.
Martin Cove. We were stuck at the announce desk.
I know.
But it was getting late.
You were asleep. I know I caught you asleep backstage sometimes when we had the little, like, when they were changing the cameras and stuff.
Yes,
I even thought, I
catering.
said, I don't know how Jim is doing this. I said, I know Jim doesn't even like to leave the house. So I don't know how he's doing this right now.
I took a couple of naps back there on the, but yeah, you had a lot on your plate with filling all of those services.
Yes. And like, well, that was the thing that was funny about, because, you know, Ash, he is a wrestling fan, of course. But he, you know, he's never been a wrestler. So I remember, like, we were on take. And you know that last scene took 3 days to film. I was like, I never thought, if anyone ever asked me what's the longest match I'm ever going to be ever in, I'm going to say 72 hours, because
yeah, 3 days.
But I remember, like, we were so tired. It was probably, I don't know what hour we are on at this point and what camera different shot we were on. But he was like, okay, we just need one more, but we just need, like, your feet work or whatever. Like, we just need you to go through the motions. So we were super just going through the motions because I was so over it at this point. And then he, like, came on the loudspeaker when I was like, well, we need a little bit more than that. And that's when I just flipped him off. And I remember all of the extras started cheering.
I remember that now. Okay. Oh, the footwork thing. Well, what if I'm going to be resting up top, but I'm tap dancing down below.
Right. But then afterwards, he was like, oh, you know, because I thought that, you know, there wasn't a lot of bumps and stuff. It was fine. I was like, it is not just the bumps that wears you out. It's the getting up. It's the getting down. It's the me talking them through the whole thing. I was like, it's a lot. Okay. But it was really cool, you know, especially like you said, even with the, like, professional stunt women, they're still, like you said, they're not trained professional wrestlers. So although they're willing to get in there and do, like, the physicality, they still are needing a lot of guidance. And, you know, I'm no grizzled vet by any means, but I guess it was cool feeling like one, because to them I would.
Well, and obviously for some of the main roles, they are professional actresses rather than trained wrestlers, although they did work out, as you mentioned, you know, quite a bit to get Emily, who plays Mildred Burke, and also Mae Young. I met Mae Young in the shuttle bus the first day that I was there, as we were going over to the Penn Dennis Club, and Francesca Eastwood, right?
Yeah,
she
Francesca,
the daughter of Clint Eastwood, and
I know I try not to mark out to her about her dad.
Well, what was Clint Eastwood 72 when he had her to begin with? Because you know, she said, she introduced herself and she said, I'm playing Mae Young. And I just looked, I started laughing. And because I said, well, I knew Mae Young. And she said, oh, really? Do you think I'm doing her justice? And I said, do her justice? I think you're doing her charity. I said, Mae Young never, even in her younger days, never looked like that. But but they had to have some stunt people that looked remarkably similar to those actresses, and that's, you know, but they all did their best as well, and that's probably the first time they've taken a bump in a regulation wrestling ring.
Oh yeah, I mean, and like all the actresses too, I'm pretty sure every single one at least took a bump, just, you know, to feel what it was like. And you mentioned Emily. I mean, Emily. I mean, you haven't seen the movie yet, have you, Jim?
No. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Did they send you a VHS and I was left off the list?
Okay. I went to a couple of the festival screenings.
Oh, that's right. It has been released to the rich and famous folks at Aspen and things like that.
Well, I honestly, but I'm not going to even, whatever we see in even like Louisville when it premieres will probably be even a little bit different, because I guess the festival scene is kind of to like see what is working, what's not working, and fix it up a little bit.
Well, yes, and we're also, Ash is in final edits on sound and audio this week. We're doing an interview with him around that schedule. So, but obviously, from the trailer, a lot of fans have been interested. People are, you know, excited about it. And as I said, besides the fact that I always tear these movies up because I'm a OCD historian and nobody looks like any of the people in the wrestling business in any of these productions.
Right.
From all indications, they've made a a darn fine flick here that is getting some attention, not from just the wrestling community, but from filmmaking. So
Well, and that's what I was
maybe
gonna say.
maybe we got
Emily,
something here.
I think Emily, like, because she's naturally, like, she's not a huge girl by any means, but I remember when I walked into OVW that first day, even just to stand next to her, I was like, this chick's legs are bigger than mine. I mean, she put on she put on a lot of size. Like, she looked great. And when I saw her at the festival, and, you know, we made this in 2023 summer of, so I haven't seen her in like a year and a half. And she still looks wonderful, but she was like, oh no, I did not keep any of that muscle. She was like, that I did not want to keep that muscle, it was too much. So like, she really put in the work to like super hard diet, super hard training. So she took this role like very serious. And I think she's so good as Mildred.
You know, those are words that I've never uttered before. I don't want to keep all this muscle. I've never had an occasion. Well, you have obviously been training for a while. You didn't just, you know, pick up the weights day before yesterday. How did you, who trained you? How did you get started in the business to begin with?
Well, I played sports like my entire life. I have an older brother, so I'm just a bit of a tomboy. And like my dad, he used to put dollar bills on like door hinges and stuff, you know, not door hinges, but the top of doors. And like, so we would practice our vertical jump and stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. Carrot and a stick type of deal.
Yes. So we'd want to get that dollar bill. So we'd practice our vertical jumps and, you know, just always little things like that. And then, played sports all throughout high school, played Division I softball, tried to have a normal job. And I think when you're an athlete your whole life and you kind of try to go into an office, you're like, oh, like this sucks. And so I grew up watching wrestling with my dad, like Attitude Era stuff. But I never watched it thinking, oh, I want to be that. Because honestly, I don't know. I think girls my age kind of lie when they say that. Because I'm like, surely you weren't watching the Attitude Era with like the sex celebration in the middle of the ring and the bra and panties matches thinking, I want to do that when I'm older. Like, I don't know. That's just weird. That's just weird to me. So I was not thinking that's what I was going to be when I was older. But yeah, I went to an indie show one time. This is after I had, you know, graduated, tried to do the whole professional job thing. And I don't know, I just had this sort of epiphany and I was like, oh my gosh, I can be a professional wrestler. Like, it's a way to continue doing like athletic things. It just seems fun. Why not? So I didn't know. I'm from North Carolina, so you would think I knew somebody in wrestling, but I did not. And I just Googled how to become a professional wrestler and found the Dudley Boys School down in Florida.
Oh.
And yes, so I went to Devon and Bubba's school down in Kissimmee. And I remember I drove up, and so I don't know what a wrestling school is like. I don't know what to expect. I just talked to the guy that was helping run things a little bit on the phone, like as I'm driving down there. And he was like, yeah, it's attached to here, blah, blah, blah. I show up and I think I just got played. Like, I think I sent them my deposit money and I'm like, where am I? Because it was in the back of a gym and you could tell there was no there was no signage, and it like was an old massage parlor, but the sign had been taken down. And I was like, what in the heck? But no, sure enough, that's where the school was. And
well, that's how you know if it's going to be a good school, because
yeah.
Hey, the first OVW building years ago, the directions included turn off the paved road. So, but that's where, you know, Brock and Batista and Orton and everybody came from. But
no, I tell you what, you're right about that. All of the really like nice places I've been in, I won't say any names, I'm like, they don't teach you nothing there.
Well, yeah, speaking of nice places that you won't mention any names about, I'm thinking I mentioned at the top of the interview that, you know, I first worked with you on those NWA tapings 5 years ago. And I'm thinking I've seen you with some promotion or on some television program since then. I'm trying hard to place it because, you know, and a lot of people think, Camille, now that I don't like women's wrestling. It's with women's wrestling, it's kind of with me like men's wrestling. I don't like the bad stuff. I like people to be attractions and it not to be overdone and people to look like the part that they are trying to play. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there are some places that fit those parameters and some that don't, some that, you know, require you to be friendly with somebody, and it doesn't matter what you look like, but you can get on. But you wouldn't want to be involved in any of those places that would really more or less insist that you not talk about them in public, stuff like that, would you? You wouldn't want to be involved with it.
I just do my best with everything handed to me my whole life. Like, you know, back in my sports days, if I didn't, you know, if I wanted to play right field instead of left field, but they put me in left field for the game, I made sure to not, you know, try to not make any errors and hit well. So that's kind of my mentality on any opportunities in life.
And Brian, I know you've been sitting back absorbed in this conversation, but is there anything?
Brian's here? What?
Brian's here.
It's been just such a scintillating conversation. I didn't even want to interrupt it.
But I know that Brian was dying to ask you certain questions until we, you know, discovered some of the parameters on some things that you may or may not have been involved in.
Yeah, let me ask a question, a hypothetical question, if you will, Camille. Let's say I got a brand new car. Let's call it a Mercedes. And let's say that my Mercedes has a wig. And let's say I'm driving this wig-wearing Mercedes, and it's just going all over the road, and it seems to only do what it wants to do, whether that's the way it's supposed to go or not. So I guess my question is, how creepy is Dave Lagana?
Oh, my God. Hey, you know what? I know that there was some controversy, obviously, with Jim and Dave. But I mean, you know, let's call it the elephant in the room. But what I will say, and this is me, Dave was always wonderful to me. He was wonderful to my husband, and I think that he was a big reason that when the NWA did have its initial success, along with Jim being a part of it and on commentary, that he did do a very good job with production and doing like the behind the scenes videos and getting the stories together. So that's what I'll say about
Camille.
He was great to me.
Camille, you should run for office. You are incredible. And
unlike
also,
Jim, unlike Jim in Louisville, I wouldn't fall asleep around Mr. Lagana. If only he was as good on the audio editing as he is good on the rest of the production. But Brian, so we got your question answered. Well, one other question. Do you think it would be tough, Camille? I know you've been working for a while. Do you think it would be tough to wrestle in a wig? Like, that just seems like, how would you be comfortable working if there's something on you that at any point could be yanked off or fall off, or who knows what could happen? All sorts of mishaps.
Yeah.
No, I give a lot of props to people that can wrestle in wigs. One, I don't know if you've ever worn one in your spare time, but they can be very hot. So, you know, you get hot in the ring, and that's one thing to it. And then, like you said too, I would just be so worried about it the whole time. I guess you'd have to invest in some very prestigious, you know,
fasteners. Yeah,
yes.
and apparatuses. As a matter of fact,
but I think
like
that
might be the hottest thing about some people is their wig.
I think that it's cool to change up your looks. As a woman, you know, sometimes we like to change it up, and it's a nice, cool way to change it up. So I give people that can wrestle in wigs a lot of props. I can't even wrestle with my any frontal part out because I don't want to be worried about any of that happening. So props to anyone that can do any of that.
Have you taken any driving lessons since the mishap where you almost murdered Chris Statlander driving into her, trying to drive into her? I'm not even sure. Did you intentionally not hit her because you're a good person?
No.
How did that work?
Hold on. I'm not going to allow her to actually admit to attempting to commit felonious assault here on the program.
That's a bunch of crap.
Was there someone in the car?
Thank you, Jim.
Was there someone in the car with you that put their foot on the accelerator right at the last moment that you'd like to blame?
Well, I think that, you know, I was told I had to do that a little bit last minute, but I'm a team player and I had heels on. Once again, Brian, don't know if you've ever worn heels in your spare time.
Only in my spare time when I have my wig on.
Well, see, I didn't want to say anything, but that it can be hard to drive with heels on. So I'll take the L on that one. I might have messed up, but I am blaming the heels.
Well, you know
good.
what?
Always blame the heels. That's good.
That's a great thing. It's always blame the heels in the wrestling business.
Mm-hmm.
The baby faces get away without a single mark. Anyway, but back to the movie. I'm only a cameo, a bit player in this masterpiece. It's
Oh, no, Jim. I got to put you over real quick. I do have to put you over real quick. You had a line, and I don't know if you remember it. It's a line at the very end of that match, and that was the most tongue-twisting, craziest line.
When I got the pop, right?
Well, I know. So I think, and I gotta apologize to you, Jim. I think I jinxed you because I remember I looked over to Tyler Posey and I said, because he was like, this guy, because you won't take offense. These guys don't know a lot about wrestling. You are a new figure to some of these people. He was like, this guy's great, So you got put over by Tyler Posey, and I said, oh my gosh, I was like, I don't know how he's saying that line without messing up. It's so hard. And then the next shot was the one where you flipped it a little bit, but yeah, that was good.
I paused. I just told this story on the last podcast that Brian and I did. I paused because I realized I was about to screw it up, and I just said, shit.
Yeah.
And the place blew.
Yeah, that was good. I kept that in the movie.
I thought actually that would be the end. They'd send me back to, summer stock and a star would not be born, but we got by with it. But, this movie is, you are one of the major participants in this thing. So it's a great way to make a debut. And we are, we're trying to nail down all of the information we can publicly give. There's going to be premieres at the end of February in a couple of different cities, including one near and dear to my heart and possibly one near and dear to you. And then general release comes the first week of March. It's going to be in a bunch of theaters. But any final closing thought of your experiences shooting with Queen of the Ring?
Yes. Oh, I forgot to mention this is a little sentimental part that was really cool. While we were filming, I was the current NWA Women's World Champion. And while we were filming, I actually surpassed June Byers' reign record and moved into the top 5 title reigns of all time. So it was pretty cool. Like, it was a really fate-filled time. It was really cool.
That is tremendous. And that I think I mentioned to you, I know I was telling a couple of the young ladies, it was backstage, that Louisville, Kentucky, the rumor has been for years that Mildred Burke and Elvira Snodgrass drew 18,000 people in Louisville. And I had always shot that down because there was no place to draw that many people in 1941. Right. But then we found out it was a 3-match series at the Louisville Gardens, and they drew a combined 18,000 people, which makes sense. And this movie was shot literally 2 blocks in part away from where Mildred Burke had actually performed, some of the hotel where she actually stayed. They did some of the shooting, the seal back. That's a lot of Louisville looks like it got stuck in 1940, but that was lucky for the film.
Yes, that looked so great for the movie. Like, the movie looks so good, especially, to me, something over $1 million is a huge budget because I'm just me. That sounds like a lot of money, but I guess it was a low budget, and I think they did an amazing job with the budget. So yeah, I'm very excited for everybody to see the film. I'm also going to go ahead and claim that I think our wrestling scenes are better than Iron Claws. So putting that out there now.
And well, having seen the Iron Claw, at least the film, and then seeing you guys up close, I guarantee you guys were taking bigger bumps. But anyway.
Yeah, it's cool.
Well, Camille, wherever you land on major television next, we will be watching with great anticipation to see what's going to, if you bother with it anymore, because once the movie hits, Hollywood will be beckoning, and then you might be fighting Rhea Ripley in a Hollywood major motion picture in a couple of years. You guys are on the same trajectory.
Hey, I am down with whatever God puts in my lap. We'll take it. All
righty. Anyway, Brian, I forgot to ask if you have any closing comments for Camille before we let her go and get back to her day.
Camille, what kind of music do you like?
Oh, come on now. Don't do this. She'll never do this show again if you run her off with that. He's always trying to.
Unless she loves music, she'll be back next week.
He's always playing with his organ, and people don't want to see that.
Hey, an organ? I was gonna say I like gospel music and stuff. So yeah, what a little church organ? Why not?
That's what I'm known for. I play a lot of gospel music.
There you go.
Yeah, see, it works out.
Oh God, folks, we'll be right back with more. Don't miss Queen of the Ring when it comes to a theater near you.
Bye.
All right, we have returned. The Good Time Gospel Hour here.
And we are here. And we have arrived.
We have arrived.
I'm thinking, the more that I think about Camille, what a talent she is, I'm thinking that maybe she could be brought in as a bodyguard to some mid-level girl heel that's not really getting over and be a source of heat for that person that's a failure in their spot. And she could be like the Diesel, the Kevin Nash of the situation, and just lay waste to everybody. Maybe that would be a way to introduce her and get her over to the public.
Whatever keeps her away from the wheel of the car after what she tried to do to that poor Chris Statlander. Poor innocent Chris Statlander just doing nothing in the back, but someone tries to hit her with a car.
She never claimed to be an accomplished driver. Some people just can't pick that up.
No, but you know what? There's probably something here that would involve a wager about messing up booking. There's probably something here to be said about the odds of someone who messes up the most basic of booking messing up even more. There is a chance that we should look at the chances. Do you get my drift?
There's a chance that maybe you can stagger into a segue. Well, I'll tell you what, Camille, she's a marvel of nature. She's got the size, she's got the ability, and, big things, super-sized things, Brian. Well, they're the things that the United States citizens most enjoy. The big things, the bold things, not the little itty-bitty, teeny-tiny bowl, but the Super Bowl, the big Super Bowl, the big super toilet bowl, whatever kind of bowl. It's got to be super, and you can get in. You can stuff it. You can get in on the action.
Get in on the action. Come on now.
Yes. You can get on the... God damn you.
Get in on the action. I keep my bowl in the garage. But get in on the action, of course, with...
Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, because the Super Bowl, number 59, they've done it 58 times. And feel it's a good idea to do it again this year. And that's what they're doing for the Super Bowl. And DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the Super Bowl. So if you bet on the Super Bowl at the DraftKings Sportsbook, well, that's official. Then you can't be charged with any kind of crime, because it's an officially placed bet with an official partner. And if you lose that bet, then that means that DraftKings is in it with the NFL, so they can send some linemen over to your house to straighten your ass out.
Well, no, they don't. The NFL doesn't do that kind of thing anymore.
Well, they're official partners, so if you're planning on filing any kind of suit for assault and battery as a result of what happened, you can haul the NFL in on it too. Have you seen these DraftKings Sportsbook employees?
What?
They're not nearly as physically impressive as the football players are that come knocking on your door if you fuck up.
Well, again,
just pay your debts.
Well, once again, I think it all comes back to the scenario that we are presenting. And of course, in the scenario that's happening,
yes,
Mr. and Mrs. America wake up, they open the door, the grass is green, the flowers are in bloom.
It's a Super Bowl day.
They've got their newspaper and they pick it up and they see the game and they say, hey, you know what? I've had a good quarter. I'm going to go do something about this game. I'm going to put a few bucks down with my friends at DraftKings.
Well, and scoring touchdowns is the key to hoisting the Vince. Hoisting is another word for picking up, and they could have used picking up the Vince Lombardi Trophy. But you've got a shot to score big, and you don't even have to pick that big thing up. You'll get a hernia. Your balls will be in your watch pocket. But you can score big by betting on the other people to do the heavy lifting and the hard labor at DraftKings Sportsbook, which is, of course, the number one place to bet touchdowns. They're going to be touching down all over that field at the Super Bowl, and new DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Just like that.
Or it's $2 for a single issue, or $13 for six.
$13 for six. Well, you pay in bulk. Folks, right now, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JCE. That's how you get that bonus $200 bonus bets when you bet the $5. You see, it all works together. You got to let them know you're in with us. The code is JCE when you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5 only on DraftKings Sportsbook, because don't be a pig, but the crown will be yours.
That's right. And, of course...
Do we have any audio from the head office in Lincoln, Nebraska yet?
I don't know why they stopped sending it. Sometimes they're behind. Sometimes, the voice goes out. It's that time of year you lose your voice.
Yeah, I'm about to lose my religion. But, crack the neck. Here we go. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. How long is 168 hours, Uncle Huck?
Can we just play that next time? Is that where we go? dkng.audio? Is that the audio we need?
I don't... well, no, that's for additional terms.
Are they talking
additional
to us?
Shit. If it's additional, it's even more than what we've just said. How could there be more to be said?
Is this like a Twilight Zone thing where they're speaking directly to you and I?
Well, I'm not listening.
Well, the crown is yours.
It sure is.
And you will listen. DraftKings.
Don't be a pig.
All right, well, let's get away from the truffle pig and let's truffle on here on the show. Truffling along, let's get to some questions, Jim. This was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Mac in Kankakee, Illinois.
Come on now. You don't mean to tell me that you've never heard of Kankakee, Illinois.
I've never heard of it before in my life.
Oh, for fuck's sake. All right. Well,
How do you know
apologize.
it? How do you know it?
It's Kankakee, Illinois.
What is it known for? Who's from there?
It's known for being called Kankakee, Illinois. How can you overlook a fucking uniquely named all-American city like Kankakee, Illinois?
Well, here's Mac's question.
Canopies, Illinois.
I have been seeing an influx of the word burial every time a wrestler loses a match. Would you mind clarifying the definition of a burial and give us an example of same? Also, have fun pronouncing my town's name.
All right. Well, we accomplished that already. This is another of those words or terms that, yes, it was used in the wrestling business, but since the internet and everybody thinks they're smart, and then the people who got smart on the internet open wrestling schools and they start newsletters, and now, a 30-second backstage promo is an angle, and all the terms become prostituted or morphed into something else or misused or misapplied or whatever. So I will attempt to tell you what it is supposed to mean. And it's not hard to figure. I mean, tell me, Brian, because I've been in and around wrestling and the business and the people in it for so long. it's still, if you went out on the street and were talking to normal civilian people that didn't have anything to do with wrestling, and you said something like, "Oh, I told my wife that I was out with you last night, Ben, and we went to get a couple of beers, but I was really screwing around. But then, son of a bitch, the girl called on the phone and buried me." That would make sense, right? Maybe not.
No, I mean, it would make sense. I don't know how often that's used in conversation.
Well, I mean, anything.
But it makes sense, yes.
When something buries you, oh, it buried me when so-and-so said something right out in front of the person I was trying to fucking sweet talk or whatever. You know, anytime that something is presented to the public that is bad about you, that causes you to lose stature in people's eyes or be embarrassed or whatever, it buried me. And just doing a job in and of itself is not a burial. It's not you're burying that guy because you made him lose a match. Now, some of the guys in the territory days may have said, "Oh, fuck," and then they made me put so-and-so over and it buried me. Well, that's their opinion. But a literal burial is when, for one reason or another, a guy had gotten so much heat with the booker or the promoter or the office, or, it just was a fucking issue of some kind and got in somebody's fucking bonnet, that they would say, "Fuck him," and not only give him his 2-week notice, but fucking beat the shit out of him on the way out, bury him, make him look like an idiot. That would be a purposeful burial. And an accidental burial would be somebody, as you see more of today, coming up with an idea that either they shouldn't have done it or they didn't do it the way that they were thinking they were going to do it, and it came out and it buried the fucking guy, made him look like an idiot, or made him look weak, or made him look like he couldn't whip anybody. And go back to what I was saying earlier in the program, when you've got baby faces that you expect to draw in the main events on top, you can't bury them. You can't make them look weak and ineffective and stupid or like they brought it on themselves or they completely fucked up. Because then that buries your baby face. He's buried under the ground. He's dead. You've killed his drawing power. Or you can bury a heel by him never being effective and never winning. Or remember when MJF was supposed to be the most dastardly human being on the world and everybody started outsmarting him? That's when you bury a heel. But just doing a job or somebody getting off a zinger in a promo or whatever, now the kids will say, "Oh, he buried him." No, it's more extensive than that. You need to really, again, on purpose or by complete ignorance, you need to really have a guy do a series of stupid things and that makes him look like he can't do anything right. But that's a burial.
But what about booking burials? Those are a bit different.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're all booking burials. Again, it's just on purpose or it's by accident. You're still booking it. We think this will be great. It ended up stone cold switching heel and hugging Vince McMahon. That was a booking burial, but nobody intended it, but it killed much of the business.
Is Hunter Hearst Helmsley's punishment period that, or was he still treated too good for it to be that kind of thing?
No, they knew they weren't going to bury him and get rid of him completely and run him off with a stick. They just were going to punish him and then come back to it later on if it worked out that way. It wasn't a sure thing. They were, anything could have happened in that 6 months or a year or whatever. But they were, just, we can't let this go by unpunished or unnoticed or unaddressed, but we hope we'll still get something out of this guy in the future.
All right, Jim, let's go to our next question. This was sent via the Cult of Cornette Facebook group by Dewan Bennett. In-ring work, who was better, Jack Brisco or Nick Bockwinkel?
Oh, Nick Bockwinkel.
Really? I'm surprised you went to that so quickly, but explain.
Well, because Jack Brisco was the gold standard for the NWA World Champion at the time, and he and Dory Funk Jr. that was the Flair and Steamboat of 10 years previous. But Bockwinkel's actually underrated and somewhat overlooked these days because he spent so much time with Vern and so much time with the AWA and the world title in the AWA that, people think of the NWA champions because of the romance. I got to be honest with you, Jack Brisco was not only a NCAA champion, which Bockwinkel was not an amateur at any high level and would never say that he was, whereas Brisco was an NCAA champion. But to me, except for that brief little run where he and Jerry were heels in the Carolinas in the early 80s, Jack was always a baby face, and his style fit that much better. I don't know, Bockwinkel to me was more of a complete in-ring package in that the heel body language and the flamboyance of the movement that he had, where he, just even the little things that he could come off as looking down his nose at people, and he was very haughty, and he had that aura about him, as well as being an incredible worker, just an incredible worker. So I like Jack from a standpoint of having a really great classic scientific match with Dory Jr., or even having one of his great babyface performances against a top heel in defense of the NWA World title. But Bockwinkel, for at least 15 years straight, and maybe before that, we didn't get to see him in Georgia in the late 60s because the stuff doesn't survive. He was among the very top workers in-ring workers in the business anywhere in any organization. I just, I think he was more well-rounded and could do everything. He could babyface if he wanted to, but he didn't need to. Does that shock you, Brian Last?
No, I mean, I love the stuff where Jack and Jerry are heels in 83, and then they're actually great as babyfaces briefly in the WWF in 84 before Jack leaves. And apparently the plan was that they were going to turn heel and feud with Wyndham and Rotunda. So that would have been amazing.
Yeah. And just because one great guy might be a little bit greater than the other great guy doesn't mean that everybody ain't great. Or wait a minute, it doesn't mean that everybody ain't great.
And again, Jerry Brisco was great on his own, but it makes you wonder how different things could have been if at some point in the 70s, all of a sudden Jack Brisco was a heel with Jerry either wrestling or just as his mouthpiece. Because Jerry's tough, but he was a little smaller than Jack, and he would do all the talking. If you remember those promos in Mid-Atlantic, Jerry did all the talking, and Jerry was great, and Jack just had to slightly turn to the camera and smirk.
Yeah.
That's all he did, and it worked.
And that's another thing is, I know they said in-ring, but Nick's promos compared to Jack Briscoe's, especially as a babyface world champion. Yeah. So anyway, I liked watching both of them, but I really enjoyed Bockwinkel. And boy, he could do everything. He could do everything.
All right, let's go to another question. Jim, this was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from DJ in Toronto. Hi, Jim and Brian. Your month-by-month Midnight Express retrospectives led me into a rabbit hole.
Uh-oh.
Where I am now...
Hopefully he was able to get out without the fire department.
Where I am now trying to watch as much wrestling from January 1984 as possible. I've done this. The TV during the week of January 7th, 1984 was obviously a big week for you guys. But it was also a big week for Mean Gene. Or so it would seem. Because he is on both episodes of WWF Wrestling and AWA. Is there a story behind that? Or am I being led astray by YouTubers sticking arbitrary dates on their stuff? Thank you. So again,
I guess
January 7th, 84 is the date.
There would have been overlap, wouldn't there? Because Vern taped a lot of stuff in advance, especially if it was local promos. We don't know what particular segments in these shows that he's talking about, but And that would be right after Christmas and New Year's. So I would, and Hogan went to Japan in Thanksgiving-ish 83 and was supposed to come back to the AWA, but instead was in the Garden at Christmas time, right?
He was in the Garden a little bit after that, but he was in St. Louis at Christmas time.
That's right. But point being, since the thing with Gene happened about the same time, I bet you that Vern had taped weeks worth, and this was the bone of contention, that Hogan no-showed a bunch of shows in the AWA he was supposed to come back for. So the local promos with Gene hosting were taped like 4 or 5 weeks out. And they were playing, and that's another knock on the AWA that people registered, was that even when they knew Hogan wasn't coming back, they didn't change the promos because they were all, fuck, this guy's fucking us. But if we change the interviews, then we'll fuck ourselves because people won't buy a ticket. Will as many ask for a refund if they're already there as they will, it just won't come. And they said, fuck it, we're going to play the fucking interviews. So Gene would have still been on the AWA television show in some fashion right about the time that he started in the WWF, which was at the start of 84. So yes, it did and probably did. We haven't seen it, but and that's the excuse for how it happened.
How do you think you would have dealt with it if you were Vern or any promoter and you had Hogan and all of a sudden he starts ghosting you and he does all these promos? And again, JYD did a bunch of promos for Mid-South stuff. Mean Gene was the person who did all the local promos for the AWA. So everything with Hogan was Mean Gene. Everything with everyone was Mean Gene.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that's just pulled off your show and it's directly against you. In some of those AWA towns, that's the first place Vince McMahon tried to buy the TV out from the promoter that was there. So how do you think you would have dealt with that if all of a sudden you build up these big shows around the holidays and the biggest star you have, which is the most exciting star you've had in years, is just gone?
Well, now you know why so many of the old-time promoters threaten to kill each other. And, because either you're going to jump out a window or you're going to try to throw the fucking guy that's put you in that position out the window, one or the other. What else are you going to do? And that's why many people were at Vince's throats, and there was discussion of, whether can we make Junior go away? That was discussed by some of the promoters. But, I mean, I've had that happen on a smaller level when, a couple times in Smoky Mountain, I advertised, at one time for Thanksgiving, Abdullah the Butcher, who was more than happy to agree to come, and until suddenly Japan called and offered him the Thanksgiving week, and he took that and didn't come, but that's what I got Dick Murdoch to come in and take his place. And we explained it. It was part of the package show. But to have a guy that's drawing that amount of money and at the time, the amount of shows that they were running in the AWA every night of the week in these major buildings, it ended up, costing them hundreds of thousands of dollars probably.
And again, looking at this specific question, if you're a promoter and for years the face of your show doesn't necessarily do commentary, but in terms of every interview, every local promo for every local market is Gene Okerlund, and he's a character. He's not just generic announcer guy holding a microphone.
Yeah.
He becomes a popular figure. Does that hurt almost as much as Hogan in terms of the way the people locally will perceive the new show coming into town?
Well, yes, because the announcer that had been there for that long, wrestlers come and go, and even though there had not been direct opposition to the AWA like that, people knew the wrestlers come and go and work for other, organizations, and they read it in the magazines or whatever. But the announcer was like your guy, the hometown. When Lance Russell was not able to come to the new Memphis show, when Jarrett split off from Goulas for 6 weeks because he had to work out his notice with the other station, it killed the show. People are, what the fuck? Because it was disorienting and they weren't used to it. If you had an announcer that, was just one of 5 or 6 guys in the company or was, hadn't been there that long, that might be one thing. But when you had, the guy that had been really associated with the program and with all of the stars and for so long, and he's gone, and on the other side, that hurt. It gave them credibility. And the local fans would, say, okay, well, fuck, we usually like the AWA, but there's Gene, and yeah, Hogan's there. And then when they got Mad Dog Vachon and the Crusher, well, that was it.
This footage of that the WWE put on one of their commercial tapes early on, it's like Mad Dog Vachon's debut in St. Paul, I think. And the fans, I don't think a lot of the fans knew he was going to be there. So those are people who grew up on AWA. They're now going to these WWF shows. And out comes Mad Dog Vachon. They lose their shit.
Yeah.
And then he goes in there and has just a really bad... His opponent kind of sucked, but it was really
because
bad.
He was 60. Mad Dog was 60 by that point. He wasn't he in the 48 Olympics?
Yeah, something
like that. This was
1984,
so do the math. And that's what I've always talked about. There were bigger stars in wrestling in the territory days that you never really got to see. And Mad Dog Vachon never wrestled in Louisville, Kentucky. But he was one of the biggest stars, one of the biggest draws, one of the biggest names in the business for decades. But if you ask somebody in Louisville, if they hadn't read a wrestling magazine, they wouldn't have the first fucking clue who you were even talking about. So that's how you could always bring new wrestlers into a territory and make new stars for your fans, because there was always somebody they had never seen. And now, you see everybody, and you see them from the point where they're just starting out and they're greener than goose shit and they can't grab their ass with both hands. And then it's harder to get into it after that.
All right, Jim, our next question sent via the Cult of Cornette Facebook group by Jim Vogt, a rising contributor to the group, apparently, it says here. Jim appeared in MTW for Gary... I always get this name wrong. Waronchak in the early 90s. I was a kid in those crowds, watching Bruiser Bedlam. I can't read. Watching Bruiser Bedlam rough up the sound man when he played the Mr. Clean theme. Any fond memories of that appearance or others in Detroit and Michigan?
Well, at the time, Gary Waronchak was a longtime wrestling fan, but at that time he was operating MTW, was Midwest Territorial Wrestling. And he was doing shows in and around the Detroit area. And Gary would later on to become a politician, and I think, was he in the House of Representatives in Michigan? He reached a high level. I don't want to quote where he was at because it might be wrong, but we were in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. The Bodies, Rock and Roll Express, and I, and he wanted to, because Gary was obviously, being a fan, also he traded tapes and everything, and the people in Michigan knew the Rock and Roll Express, and he had a small but dedicated fan base there that was kind of, smart to the tape trading and watching other programs, so he called and asked if he could book the Bodies and the Rock and Roll, and we had been on Survivor Series at that point. So could he book the Bodies to Rock and Roll and I to come up and do his shows? And we did 2 in a row on a weekend. And Gary's very easy promoter to work for and had good shows going on. But that's where I saw Johnny K9, who would later become Bruiser Bedlam, because he was, living in Ontario at that point, Windsor, and working independent shows around the area. And I said, how the fuck has this guy never been anywhere with that look? And as I talked to him and what the personality and heard some of the statistics, what he could bench press and things he could do. And that's where, I made contact with him. I said, I'm going to bring you to fucking Knoxville. And we created the gimmick and boom. But besides 2 more matches with the Rock and Roll Express to add to the canon of Cornette's teams against the Rock and Roll, I got to be honest, I don't remember any funny stories about the buildings we were in or any of the happenings of those events, just that's where, I found Bruiser.
Do you remember that spot where the sound guy would play Mr. Clean's music?
No,
that is?
Thankfully, I don't think I saw that, or maybe it would have turned me off to fucking Bruiser.
What is Mr. Clean's music? I mean, the commercial has Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Well, I assume that's what Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. He didn't look like Mr. Clean. He looked like Alibaba. Cut somebody's head off with a fucking saber.
But it's only 2 seconds. How do you play that to the point where it riles him up that he goes and chokes out the sound guy? But
I don't. Well, and we got to remember the letter writer was also a small child. So
that's right. Well, those are the memories that make wrestling fans. The commentator getting killed by a murderer. Let's go to another question here, Jim. This one was sent via the Cult of Cornette Facebook group by Mark Pancott. Jim lost to Joe Hendry at the burger eating competition and labeled him a freak of nature back then.
Yes.
What's his view of Joe now in TNA and the NXT crossover? And does he see him in NXT/WWE permanently?
Well, Brian, how do we break it to the folks? And we might even be breaking it to Joe Hendry if he's a listener of the program. I haven't seen any of that. I haven't seen any. What we watch is what we review here on the program. And if I didn't have a wife and a dog and have to support myself and eat and sleep, I could watch all the other shows. From meeting Joe back then and doing that bit of business with him and seeing what he was doing then, I saw he had a lot of potential and talent. And I've seen the social media frenzy over him where he's, apparently done all this shit to get his name out there and done a wonderful job of getting himself over. But I have not actually seen any of this. Should we watch something just to say we did? What if you and I were going to watch
the Royal Rumble?
Is he going to be in the Rumble?
I don't know. I'm just guessing.
He might be calling right now. My phone is ringing over my shoulder, but no, maybe the fans could say, okay, Brian and Jim, if you got 15 minutes, here's what you need to watch of Joe Hendry to get the idea of what's going on with Joe Hendry these days. We would be open to doing that.
Yeah, I just know the one thing, that clip of him like turning around, which always makes me laugh because it reminds me of that Lindsey Buckingham video. Right, what is it? It's Trouble, where it opens and every member of the band that's playing in the video turn around dramatically.
Do. Think I'm in trouble. Well, Joe's not in trouble. He's getting over. And he does his own music. He's a musical genius as well. So we just hadn't had time to investigate that.
All right, well, let's get another question here, Jim. This one was sent via the Cult of Cornette Facebook group by Alfred Persard Jr.
What now? What?
Hope I got that right, Alfred.
Alfred what? Alfred Buzzard?
Alfred Parsard Jr.
Parsard? So somebody thought that name was a name you should use twice.
Well, will you leave him alone? What is your problem?
Well, it's ridiculous.
And his dad. Why don't you leave him alone, too?
Well, his dad's the one that started the whole thing.
Well, here's Alfred's question. Has Jim ever worked with Al Perez? Also, did he think Al had star potential? And if so, why didn't he achieve bigger things in the business?
Oh, boy. Yes, I did. Remember, Al Perez was in... he worked for, it was Crockett, right? Still, right before Dusty was booking.
It was 88?
Perez was there, it was 88. It was right before TBS bought the company. Did he make it till after the TBS purchase, or was he already gone by then? I can't remember.
Yeah, he was with Gary Hart as his manager.
Gary Hart was his manager. He was a really good-looking guy. He had a good body, and he could work, and he could talk a bit. It's just that... nothing was outstanding they used him on top in Texas and in a regional territory, Florida in the day, he could have got over, but he wasn't of the level of Flair or the Horsemen or the top guys in Crockett Promotions at the time. He had a good body and he looked good. Gary Hart is his manager as a heel. He could be kind of a narcissistic Lex Luger type, but I just don't think there was anything about his promos or his matches or, whatever that really stood out, except that he was completely convinced that he was and should be the greatest wrestler in the world and the world heavyweight champion.
Is the Ric Flair story true?
I'm trying to remember didn't he?
Heck, he refused to job the Ric Flair. He said, you have to really beat me?
Well, I couldn't remember whether it was that or whether that he quit or stood him up at one point over, he thought they should put the belt on him. That may have been the bone of contention of why that he left. I can't remember. Either he said, well, if you don't put the belt on me, I'm leaving. Or they said, well, what the fuck? Shut the fuck up and just go away. But yeah, he thought and Flair, was willing to work with anybody. But my God, it just, when you got this guy that Al Perez on a national basis didn't really ever do anything and for anybody. He didn't trip anybody's trigger, but he was convinced that he was, the best in the world. And I think that's what prevented him from going any further, because he was so convinced that he should be farther ahead than what he was.
And it seemed like for a while he was on a trajectory to go somewhere, because he was in 85, him and Wendell Cooley were tag champions in Mid-South, getting over as a young baby face.
Yeah.
Although tough position post Rock and Roll Express, but they did as good as you could in the summer of 85.
But it showed people wanted to do stuff with him because he looked good and he had the potential and he, was athletic and had the physique, but the attitude was not, he was convinced that he was the biggest star in the business.
And then in 87 or so, I think, 87, he's in World Class with Gary Hart. And that's right before he gets to the NWA, and he's with Gary Hart. And then Gary goes to Muda, I guess, right after he leaves.
And that was a trade up because instantly Muda got over. So, and I'm not saying, it was because of Gary, but you got a guy with Gary Hart as his manager and he don't get over with shit. And then suddenly you got a guy with Gary Hart as his manager and everybody's over. What's the change in the fucking, equation?
Jim, another question from the Cult of Cornette Facebook group, this by Joseph Till. Where did Ricky Morton get those big panties that he was clowning Ric Flair with?
On TBS.
On TBS in 85.
Probably a flea market. No, it may have been 86.
May have been 86. That's what made me stop.
Because coming up on the bash it, because Flair had cut the promos that, Ricky Morton, Rock and Roll Express, all the little teenage girls in their training bras are just gaga over you guys, but woo, the horsemen get the ladies, and trying to make Ricky and Robert seem like the teeny bopper idols, which they were, and trying to insult Ricky and Robert's audience, which he was, and fucking saying that, it's just a bunch of little girls that like you guys, where when they grow up to be women, that's when they like the horsemen. So then, as I recall, Ricky brought out some granny panties and say, yeah, here's an example of your women's drawers. And it was something that like a 70-year-old woman would wear. At that point in time, those guys, none of us came to TV expecting to have somebody hand us a script for an interview. And it didn't take place, and we would have scoffed at it if it did. So a lot of times, guys would see something at a store on the side of the road, or some of the fans would give them something, or they'd have an idea. I brought props right, left, and center. Spencer's Gifts posters and fucking goofy wigs and sunglasses, whatever. But you'd see something, you say, grab that, I can do something with it on TV, and then it's in your bag, and you got 2.5 or 3 minutes when you get to TV. They say, yeah, 2 minutes, talk about the Rock and Roll Express and the big matches in Cleveland on the 31st. So I'll make something out of all that. I got some props, or I got the same thing Ricky was doing, the same thing a lot of guys would do. Make it different by making something out of what was laying around.
All right, well, that sums that up. And of course, perhaps all those miles on the road looking for props or whatever they could find in a convenience store. But all those miles, you have to wonder about their liver. Do they have a healthy liver? And here to tell you more about how you could have a healthy liver, Mr. Jim Cornette.
Well, I'll tell you what, I was on a lot of those trips, went to a lot of those stores, and I can tell you what, a lot of guys' livers, those livers wouldn't even have been good if they were served with onions. I'm telling you, because guys back then, they didn't take care of their liver, because they didn't know then that the liver is the second largest organ in your body, that it's responsible for over 500 functions. Hell, you might not be able to fart or blink your eyes without a good quality liver. Because it acts as your body's filter, Brian. And it flushes out the unwanted elements and it breaks down what you consume into essential nutrients. Now, let's say you get a Swanson frozen TV dinner. You heat it up for about an hour and a half. You put it in between two pieces of bread. You shove it down your gullet. Boom. The liver breaks it all down into easily disposable turds and things and such of that nature. It filters out all the bad stuff, like everything in what you just ate, and keeps the good stuff, like the 5 vitamins that you might find in the peas and carrots. This is all clinically science proven, because they watched it on an X-ray machine. The whole TV dinner goes down into your gullet, comes through the liver. It looks like a fucking meat grinder. It just spits it out into all different places of your body.
I don't know about that, and that's certainly not clinically science proven. I don't know what that means.
Well, they're at Dose. Our friends at Dose, that's what I'm talking about. They're keeping your liver good. They're keeping an eye on it because Dose is science-backed formula. Promotes liver function, aids digestion, eases bloating. That's when you start slowly expanding until you have the feeling that you're going to explode. That's bloating. And it even boosts your energy levels because clinical results in a double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trial. And you can't get more precise than that. Dose for your liver lowered liver enzyme levels by 50% in over 86% of the participants. 14% of the participants immediately were placed on a liver transplant list, but we don't know how long that's going to take.
We don't know where that fact just came from, so let's not state that as a fact. That was part of the entertainment portion of this fact-based.
Well, you may think it's funny if you have a bad liver, but wait till you have a bad liver. And then you'll see how funny it is. You got to start doing something now.
I am. I'm not going to have to worry about this. I use Dose.
Well, you got to stick with Dose and feel the incredible benefits. Over the time that you take this, you'll have more energy, better digestion, reduced bloating, healthier liver enzyme function, reduction in brain fog, and better sleep. And one dose for your liver shot is equivalent to 17 shots of turmeric juice. And, of course, turmeric juice is hand-mashed in the Bolivian islands from living turmerics. Once they die, the juice is not as flavorful. So you got to go through a lot of trouble. Do you know how much 17 shots of turmeric juice costs at the local tavern?
You don't know that, and I don't know that, and I don't think the people know that.
Somebody does.
No one knows. Well, I guess someone.
Nobody wants to pay for it, but you can replace that with one dose for your liver shot. So that it's a no-brainer, folks. Over 30% of Americans have a sluggish liver. And that's a problem that often goes undetected until the very last minute. You know what the last minute is? Your last minute. When your liver decides to poop out, it's like a fuel pump. If it goes out while you're on the interstate going downhill, and you got power brakes, and you're off the fucking cliff. So don't fall off a cliff. Get on Dose to maintain your liver health. It's a clinically supported, potent, and effective solution that you want to share with the entire family. And if they don't want to take it, it's for their own good. You can hold them down. Either that or slip it in their food. Soup is best.
Do not slip anything in anyone's food, and soup is not do not do any of this. Let people come to their own decisions, as you will when you realize the health that is needed for a long life. You got to take care of your guts. You got to take care of your liver specifically. Yes. I don't know why I said guts, but you need guts to be a man and take care of your liver. And of course, our lady friends, but they are here for you. They are Dose and yeah, Dose.
Yes, you need to take care of women's livers. Don't let your liver quiver, folks. Dose is gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, and vegan. And you can save 30% on your first month subscription by going to Dose, D-O-S-E, Daily, D-A-I-L-Y, dosedaily.co, not com, but co/JCE. Enter JCE at checkout. 30% off your first month subscription of a way to keep your liver flying through life unencumbered by all the poisons and muck and pestilence that drag it down. dosedaily.co/JCE. Enter JC at checkout. 30% off. There's even if you had to pay full price, it's your liver, folks. And you can't live without your liver. We proved that. L-I-V-E. All you got's an extra R. So think about that.
Well, think about your liver and think about you. Once again, Dose. We thank them for coming aboard here. What's that promo code one last time without commentary?
JCE. Commentary.
No commentary. You see, you broke the rules again. But let's now go, Jim, to the final portion of the show. Obviously, that means it's time for Guess the Program.
Oh, that's how it was obvious to me. It smacked me right in the face.
Well, this is the game where I smack you in the face with wrestling history, and you smack us back with your knowledge of wrestling history. We go through programs in my collection, and we give you the card, we being me. It is me, hello.
Yes.
Have I explained any of this?
No. You're going to read me a lineup from one of your programs, and I, in my borderline mystical way, am going to give you the year and the location of that event.
That is correct. Let's go to this first one here. The first bout, 30 minutes. Jack Umberto versus Pat O'Hara. The second bout, 30 minutes. Ernie Dusick versus Harry Fields.
Oh, good Lord.
The third bout, 30 minutes. Charlie Strack versus Mehmet Youssef.
Can you give me a spelling on Strack?
S-T-R-A-C-K.
Mehmet Youssef. Okay.
Y-O-U-S-O-U-F. The fourth bout, 30 minutes. George Zaharias versus Vic Christie.
Good Lord.
The fifth bout, 30 minutes. Joe Malkowitz versus Joe Savaldi. And the wind-up, one fall to a finish. Jim Landis versus Everett Marshall.
Oh, good Lord. All right. Your Landis fascination has led you to get a pioneer program. Pat O'Hara was a fairly well-known journeyman wrestler back in the 30s and 40s, as I believe. Ernie Dusick, obviously a member of the Dirty Dusicks, the Riot Squad, Ernie, Emil. Oh, my God. Ernie, Emil, Rudy, and who was the other one?
Captain Frank.
No. Frank, but Frank was an offspring of Wally Dusick.
Of Fantasyland.
Well, Wally Dusick was not necessarily a Dusick, but neither was Danny Dusick. But nevertheless, who was the other Dusick? Ernie, Emil, Rudy, and
Liza.
I'm going blank. Oh, never mind.
I don't remember.
George Zaharias was married to Babe Diedrichson. Vic Christie. Vic and Ted Christie were a brother team and combination and noted ribbers. Joe Malkowitz, he was still wrestling. He would later on become the promoter in San Francisco that Roy Shire would go in and unseat. Am I correct? Joe Savoldi was Angelo Savoldi's brother.
Wait.
Was he not?
You mean Angelo Savoldi from WWF, Angelo Savoldi?
For the originals, the original
No
Angelo
relation.
Savoldi. They were not related?
The Savaldis were not Savaldis.
Well,
the
goddamn it.
original Jumping Joe Savoldi is no relation to the Joe Savoldi that was in Mid-South in 84.
I thought that Joe Savoldi that was in Mid-South in 1984 was the son of the original Jumpin' Joe Savoldi. That's what I thought, but I thought that Joe Savoldi was related to Angelo Savoldi.
Joe Savoldi in Mid-South was the son of Angelo Savoldi, I believe. The brother of Mario Savoldi.
But he wasn't the son of Joe Savoldi.
No, because I don't think Savoldi's their real name.
Well, goddamn it, somebody's lying. And anyway.
Yeah, anyway.
Everett Marshall was a former world champion. Didn't Thez beat him for his first world title, did he not? And of course, everybody knows who Jim Londos is, but the question is, when and where was this? I'm feeling the West Coast because of Christie and Zaharias and Malkowitz, and it would be a major market to have a Londos-Marshall world title match, and area of time, goddamn, are we looking at late 30s or early 40s? 1938 in San Francisco.
All right, there were a couple numbers there that are right. Friday, February 9th, 1934.
Ah, son of a bitch.
Convention Hall, Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Promotion Ray Fabiani Incorporated.
Son of a bitch.
There is an image on the back of this program that's fascinating.
I wouldn't have thought Vic Christie was working in 1934, but go ahead.
After all is said and done, and then it's a drawing. I'm going to make a copy of this, send this to you. It's the scale of justice, I guess. And the person holding it up, it says, Honesty, Fabiani. And then on the side that's going up, it says, Jack Pfeffer, Wiener, as another person, Hot Air, and on the other side is the press, the Penna Commission, the wrestler, the referee, the sportsman, the sports writers, public opinion, and wrestling is in the background. So obviously this is in the middle of Jack Pfeffer's war with every promoter that wasn't Jack Pfeffer.
Yes, it was.
All right, well that's the first
and program. I bombed on that one.
All right, let's get another one here.
Those are so hard to pin down blind.
That's true. The first match, Larry Lane versus Tom Pritchard.
Okay.
The second encounter, Buck Robley versus Sweet Brown Sugar. The next bout, Bruiser Brody versus Moon Mulligan. There's a name you don't hear too often anymore.
Moon Mulligan.
The main event, a tag team match, Tully Blanchard and Gino Hernandez versus Terry and Dory Funk Jr.
All righty. Well, as soon as you said Larry Lane, I said, what part of Texas is this going to be? And Tom Pritchard spent time in San Antonio. Buck Robley, noted Mid-South booker, and Colonel Buckley Christopher Yellowbelly Buck Robley was at various points in the Mid-South and Texas territories, a top heel or a top babyface. He could work and he could talk. He looked like complete dog shit, but he was friends with Brody and could get Brody to do things other people couldn't. And Sweet Brown Sugar would have been Skip Young. Brody, obviously, speaks for himself. Who was Moon Mulligan? Is there a picture?
There's not a picture. I remember him. I'm not going to say anything else because it may be a giveaway, but right. I remember who it is from videotapes.
Anyway, and Tully and Gino, of course, were the Flair and Valentine of Southwest Wrestling, and Terry and Dory probably came in to put them over because of their relationship with Joe Blanchard, Tully's father, who was the San Antonio promoter. And the Funks would do business with a lot of the other territories in Texas. Remember when we were talking about that American Tag Team title belt that was being auctioned at Heritage, we said that Terry and Dory were the ones that came into Dallas to put Kevin and David Von Erich over in the initial championship match. So it would be a team of world-class stature that put the new champions over. Point being, this is the San Antonio territory, but 4 matches for a card in San Antonio seems a little light unless this was one of the down periods. And from what I remember about Tom's earlier career, and is this, what else? What other town would be running in San Antonio? Well, fuck it. San Antonio, 1981.
The date? November 21st, 1981. 8 p.m. start time. Lubbock, Texas.
Lubbock. All right, then. So that's what they were running opposite. Was that a Funk card, or were they running opposite to the Funks? Was it the other way around? Did Tully and Gino come in from San Antonio to put Dory and Terry over?
Well, again, by this point, it says Nick Roberts promoter, which it had for a long time on these programs.
So that was the Dallas office and the Lubbock promotion, so it was not Southwest.
It's Southwest, though, because...
But Nick Roberts was getting talent from them then.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is, because you asked me about Moon Mulligan. I remember him when the first footage I ever saw of Southwest Championship Wrestling, it was Moon Mulligan, it was all these guys, Dick Slater, Tom Pritchard.
Well, then by the time that we got there in late 1984, early 1985, Nick Roberts had split off Lubbock and Amarillo from the Southwest office and was getting talent from Fritz in Dallas. Well, there you go.
Well, you got the year.
I got the year.
Let's go to
I got the state.
Got the state. This next one here, I got to be a little delicate with it. The opening bout, 1 fall, 30-minute time limit. Jack Welch versus Chris Averott.
Wait a minute.
Averott.
I think isn't it Averoff?
Oh, I don't know.
I think they misspelled it. It should be Averoff, but go ahead.
Well, let's blame the office, whatever they sent in. Charlie Keene versus Ramon Torres. In a no time limit, masks at stake, masks being pluralized here, the Bat versus Al Torres, who I assume is wearing a mask because it says masks are at stake. Finally, the main event, a return grudge match, winner take all, no disqualification, masks at stake, Jack Welch, one of 2 referees, best 2 out of 3 falls, the Medics versus Pat O'Connor and Jackie Fargo.
And the masks at stake, I think, was probably a misprint because both main events had masks at stake. So in the single match with the Bat is what I'm trying to say to you. Well, I'm go ahead.
No. I'll wait till after you guess because I just saw something on the cover that isn't. Okay, go ahead.
Well, Jack Welch was the youngest. Well, I don't know if he was the youngest, but Roy Welch, Herb Welch, Lester Welch, and Jack Welch were the 4 Welch brothers, and Jack was the one who wrestled really the least and was the least well-known and remembered. Charlie Keene was an old-time Southern heel in the Tennessee territory in, probably anywhere from the 40s to 50s through the early 60s. Al and Raymond Torres were, at least if it's the ones I'm thinking about, were Hispanic baby faces of the 60s. I can't remember who the Bat was in the Nick Gulas territory, Gulas Welch territory, and the Medics versus Pat O'Connor and Jackie Fargo. I'm going to go with Memphis, Tennessee, and 1964.
The date? Tuesday, September 11th, 1962. Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville, not Memphis. Okay.
The Bat, weighing 260 pounds, will make his first appearance in the capital city this Tuesday night.
With the mask at stake?
Matched against the popular Al Torres, who made his debut here 2 weeks ago. Teamed with his brother Raymond in a tag team bout. Nashville promoters Nick Goulas and Roy Welch have announced the Bat will put his mask at stake Tuesday night in a no time limit event.
And what happened to Alberto Torres?
Alberto Torres was Ox Baker.
Yep. Well, he wasn't Ox Baker.
He became Ox Baker, ladies and gentlemen.
No, Alberto Torres was the wrestler who died a couple of days after his last match with Ox Baker, and that was one, and along with Ray Gunkel, Baker took credit for it with the heart punch, but it was a ruptured appendix or something like that.
See your favorite wrestlers in action, WSIX-TV, Channel 8, Saturday, 10 p.m.
Yes, yeah, in Nashville. The call letters for Channel 8 were WSIX because they early on in television, back in the early 50s, they had moved to get a stronger signal, but they still had the same call letters. And Pat O'Connor was teaming up with Jackie Fargo because, for no other reason than Nick, being the NWA, aficionado that he was, always wanted to, juice up the relationship with the St. Louis office, and that's where O'Connor was working at the time.
Here's Ruth's Comic Corner. For a comedy definition, send me your work. Alimony. I don't know what this is. Alimony. A man's cash surrender value to a system by which one pays for the mistake of two. Bald-headed man. One who has less hair to comb, but more face to wash. Bareback. Nudist on horses always ride bareback. Bathing beauties. A girl worth waiting for.
Worth waiting for.
Oh, you know what? That's right. Waiting for. And finally, payments. The easiest way for a driver to lose control of a car is forget to make the payment. That was Ruth's Comedy Corner. Thank you, Ruth. Let's get one more program here, at least one more.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I dropped the other ones.
I got to hit a home run here.
Let's get this. This is an interesting one. Let me be delicate with it. Let me turn it over. All right. The opening bout. By the way, the first bout in the ring at 8:30 p.m., says here. Opening bout, Kit Fox, New Mexico, versus Jock Bernard, Canada.
Why don't you just go George Hackenschmidt?
A special bout, Midget Australian Tag Team bout, Tiny Row and Fuzzy Cupid versus Sonny Boy Cassidy and Pee Wee James. The semifinal, Steve Crusher Casey, Ireland, versus Manuel Cortez, East Boston. An elimination test. I don't know what that means. Yukon Eric, Alaska, versus Golden Terror, 2 question marks. And the main bout, the World's Heavyweight Championship, Don Eagle, Mohawk Indian Champion, versus Mr. Rex, Mystery Challenger.
Hokey dokey.
Oh, wow.
Kit Fox was a top Indian star in the 50s. Tiny Row, Fuzzy Cupid, Sonny Boy Cassidy, and Pee Wee James were pretty much the first round of midget wrestlers in the business, right? Fuzzy Cupid was the guy. He was the attraction at that time.
Yeah, and as I read this, it made me think maybe you would know. When did Sky Lolo enter the picture? Because he became the face of midget wrestling for a lot of people for a number of years.
Yes, he was. probably late 50s, I mean, he started before that, but when he would have taken over as the recognized top midget would have been about that time. Fuzzy Cupid was around a little while beforehand. Steve Casey was used as Paul Bowser's world champion in Boston when Boston was its own promotion, and they drew huge crowds up there and ran Boston weekly in the 40s and 50s, even before television. 3 weeks they'd go to the Boston Arena, and the fourth they'd go to the Boston Garden. Yukon Eric, obviously, fucking big baby face from the Great White North that lost his ear to Killer Kowalski, the Golden Terror, don't know in this instance. Don Eagle was another great Indian star of the 50s and is the one who got double-crossed by Gorgeous George, right, in that world title match in Chicago.
He is one of those people in the argument for the biggest stars for a period of time that are like almost completely forgotten.
Yeah.
You never hear them brought up. But I hear he's billed as the world heavyweight champion.
Yeah, and at that time, he was on the cover of the early 50s magazines, the nationwide national newsstand magazines. Don Eagle.
And he was all over early TV out of Chicago.
And that's why I want to say, because of Steve Casey and Yukon Eric and Don Eagle, I want to say this is Boston. And also, I believe Fuzzy Cupid, because Sky Low Low was French-Canadian. They were based out of Montreal. I think Fuzzy Cupid may have been the same. But at the same time, is this a swerve? Is this one of those, early Chicago fucking... But no, I'm gonna say Boston. And I ought to know this because I have an incredible Paul Bowser program collection that our buddy Sheldon Goldberg hooked me up with, that half or more of the programs from 1946 through 1952. But is this Boston 1951?
Well, this is a good one to end on. Jim, the All-Star Wrestling event, Boston Arena.
Okay.
Thursday, June 21st, 1951.
Holy shit.
So we're ending today on this because you got a home run, but there's a few interesting things in here. Great job, by the way. Let's really commend you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
This I find interesting. So this is 1951. There's a little ad here because it's almost newspaper style. Don Eagle novelties and photos. And it has the prices. Boy t-shirts, sizes 4 to 14, $1. Leather belts, size 22 to 32, $1. Don Eagle Eversharp pencil, $1. Indian dolls, prince or princess, $2.50. Indian war bonnet, $2.50. Scarves, $1. Vests, 50 cents. Hankies, 35 cents. Photos black and white, 25 cents. Photos colored, 35 cents. Send to Golden Eagle Company, 302 South Market Street, Chicago 6, Illinois. Exclusive distributors of Don Eagle photos and novelties. Send check, cash, or money order. No COD, please. Add 10 cents for mailing.
Do the kids even know what COD is? They don't do that anymore, do they?
When was the last time you heard that on TV or anything? I don't think so.
Yeah, collect on delivery. You could order it and they would send it by the post office, telling the post office you need to collect $6.45 or whatever, and they would actually pay the post person, and then they'd give them the thing, they'd put the money back in the deal. It was insane.
But in terms of early merch, I mean, Don Eagle, he is one of those guys from that era. There's very few. Gene Stanley obviously was all over that stuff.
Yeah.
But merchandising themselves, and I mean, he had pencils, he had shirts, he had belts and vests and scarves.
Well, and think about this. In 1951, that's the same year that maybe the year after, the Lone Ranger came on television. There's Tonto, and Westerns are starting to be a big deal on TV, and the Indian get-up and outfit had, the feathers and the color, and you could do the war drums, and it was it was fucking pageantry. It was unique and exotic for the average person in Boston or Chicago or wherever to see this full Native American regalia going on.
Let's get a few other things here. Here's a quote about Don Eagle versus Mr. Rex. Here's a quote from Don Eagle. "Who's this Mr. Rex?" "Well, my father has an inkling, because his father was his manager, remember?
Yeah.
And he's building me up accordingly. He has watched him, and he thinks he has a trick or two up his sleeve that can turn the balance wheel in my favor. That's why I need to know. If Dad has the solution, or thinks he has, all I have to do to carry out his orders. But I'm not taking this guy lightly. To me, he's every bit as dangerous as Argentina Rocca or any other." So we don't know who Mr. Rex is. There's not a picture here. But the headline...
And that was some kind of local angle that they were running with probably some, identifiable veteran under a mask or whatever.
"Fans may discover identity of Mr. Rex. There's a terrific guessing game going on now to try and guess the correct name of the wrestler masquerading as Mr. Rex. Some fans are willing to bet their eye teeth." Their eye teeth? The fuck does that mean? Do you know what that means?
Well, I mean, you know what eye teeth are.
What are eye teeth?
That's an old expression, the eye teeth, the ones in the back of your mouth. Mama Cornette used to say, "Oh, my tongue lopped over my eye teeth and I couldn't see what I was saying."
I never heard them called that before, no.
But does that mean that someone is a dentist or someone who bit someone or what? That's a clue of some kind, but we don't know what's going on.
Some fans are willing to bet their eye teeth that Mr. Rex is none other than Stan Dusek, one of the famed rioting Duseks who were familiar figures in these parts.
Wait, he's not the one with... No, there was no goddamn original Dusek named Stan Dusek.
Still, other fans are just as sure he is Fritz Schnabel of Hartford, Connecticut in real life. And still others have guessed that he is Paul Lordy, the French-Canadian wrestler who appeared here several times.
And those are names that have been heard of at that point in time in the business.
Oddly enough, both Dusek and Schnabel are members of wrestling families. Oddly enough. And so the guessing game goes on. Who is Mr. Rex? There is a good possibility that we may know the answer come Thursday night. And will Mr. Rex's pride ever be shattered when he is finally forced to pull the hood off his face? Fans are reminded, however, that Mr. Rex has stipulated that he will not remove the hood if he loses on a disqualification. He must be beaten in the ring.
Yeah.
Take it from Mr. Rex, here's a quote. "It's no easy job traveling around this country and trying to keep your identity a secret. Whenever he comes to a city to wrestle, he is forced to spend practically all of his time cooped up in his hotel room. He dare not go outside his room for fear someone will spot him and recognize him. Accordingly, he usually has his meals sent to his room, where he eats them by his lonesome. It's no easy matter keeping his identity a secret, and Mr. Rex may be just as relieved as anyone when he is finally beaten and able to walk around the avenues again without hiding from everyone." Well, there it is. There's another headline, "Namby-pamby guys out in wrestling," from Don Eagle, a column by Don Eagle. But there it is. Guess the program. And Jim, as we get out of here, we will have music return. I think we got a good song that was just sent in. Music next week.
Yeah, because we were getting a lot of the artificial intelligence stuff, and that's just not fair.
That's right, and we prefer you don't send it, so no AI. But if you have good songs, CornyDriveThru@gmail.com. Good questions, too. Of course, if you need to sue, Jim, who can they call?
Well, they could call the man, the myth, the legend, the bulldog, this man.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. show or two. Skills to the rest.
And let me tell you something, folks. Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE. He will not just hit you. He ain't got just one suit to wear. He's got a lot of suits. So if one suit don't suit, then the other suit will go on, and that suit will be suited until everybody's suited up. Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE. He's got a suit for every occasion.
That's right. Get even with Stephen, newlawoffice.com, and more news about more suits in the days and weeks ahead. Of course, you can go through the archive, patreon.com/Cornette, shows back to 2013. $5 a month, patreon.com/Cornette. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and subscribe today. Search for Jim Cornette. It'll come right up. Travis Heckel artwork, guest artwork, full episodes, clips, omnibus, omnibuy.
Incomplete sentences.
All that and so much more. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. You can follow Jim on Twitter at @TheJimCornette. You can follow me on Twitter at GreatBrianLast. That's pretty much my name on most social media. Look for me there. And of course, the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.
You've got a different name on some social media.
Hey, will you be
I've seen what they're calling you over there.
I don't know what you've been sent, but we'll talk later on. Of course, the wrestling news each and every day. Get your news from the wrestling news for free. No clickbait, no paywall, just the wrestling news. TheWrestlingNews.com, wherever you find your favorite podcast. Look for all Arcadian Vanguard shows. And of course, don't forget about Cornette's collectibles at JimCornette.com. One more time. Jim.
Yes. They shouldn't forget about it. I agree with you.
At JimCornette.com. And that's it. We already did Steven. Of course, we'll be back on The Experience in a few days. Big interview coming up on that show, too. Stay tuned for that. But until then, for Jim Cornette, I'm the Great Brian Last. Tally-ho!